Oh, I know. Okay.
Well, yeah,
But yeah,
I am.
play by ear. She told me that she likes. I'll just put all of them on, you tell. Karen.
Um, yeah, I think I got the impression. Who appointed you?
okay.
Oh, there should be.
Possibly is that. And
No, I didn't see any.
Yeah, if you've at least did not done.
Castro. Who I've
It
met.
was Uber delivery.
Weren't they supposed to?
Well, but I'm sure you were already on the board, so. Yeah.
All right, we've got a quorum.
They do it, I think it was just time.
Ooh, these are loud today.
Well, I had been terminated.
They might actually be working. What do you think?
You don't have to basically.
Yeah, I
switch
was
to
term limited from sustainability. And, yeah, so,
boy.
that's fine. So I've had a nice year break from anything.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone's well. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. Happy you're all
Recording in progress.
on this beautiful day. I wish we were outside. We're all residents of Coral Gables in charge with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods.
Sorry, yeah, could you give us 1 second while we coordinate with IT and get the screens up? I apologize.
We have an echo.
Yeah.
Should we turn these?
No, it's not,
I would say something really badly political.
That's where our screens aren't even up. I mean, I don't know if it's an IT thing or Evilise wasn't logged in. Because. Yeah, I'm confused. I'm confused. But the screen should be. And- Wait, before you go. Wait. Hear it? Echo. Okay, thank you.
Alex, I'm sure.
I thought I had this.
Audio check.
Are we set? We're not?
Audio check.
Mm-hmm.
Audio 1, 2.
Okay.
Back to the welcome. Good afternoon. We're calling the meeting to order. At the time is a little after 4, but anyway, welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. We are residents of Coral Gables and are charged with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods, and artifacts, which impart a distinct historical heritage to our city. The board is comprised of 9 members, 7 of whom are appointed by the commission, 1 by the city manager, and the 9th is selected by the board and confirmed by the commission. 5 members of the board constitute a quorum, and 5 affirmative votes are necessary for the adoption of any motion. Lobbyist registration and disclosure. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to the City of Coral Gables Ordinance 2006-11 must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities or presentations before the staff, boards, committees, or the city commission. A copy of the ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk. Failure to register and provide proof of registration shall prohibit your ability to present to the Historic Preservation Board on applications under consideration this afternoon. Lobbyist is defined as an individual, corporation, partnership, or other legal entity employed or retained, whether paid or not, by a principal who seeks to encourage the approval, disapproval, adoption, repeal, passage, defeat, or modification of any ordinance, resolution, action, or decision of any city commissioner. any action, decision, recommendation of the city manager, any city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council, or any action, decision, or recommendation of the city personnel during the time period of the entire decision-making process of the action. Discussion or recommendation which foreseeably will be heard or reviewed by the city commission or a city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Presentations made to this board are subject to the city's false claim ordinance, Chapter 39 of the City of Coral Gables City Code. I now officially call the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board meeting of March 13th to order, and the time is, according to my watch, 4:10. Present today are, on my left, he showed up, Mr. Alex Silva, Michelle Dene, Peggy Rolando, and our newest member, Marlene Everett. So if you welcome her, this is her first meeting today. So welcome, Marlene. We're happy to have you. On my left, Mr. Cesar Garcia Pons, Donna Spain, and Javier Durano. Absent today is, for the moment, is Anna Alvarez. Approval of minutes. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the meeting held on February, 14th, 13th, 15th, I'm sorry. Like to call for a motion?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Ms. Dene, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Silva, any discussion? Comments? Corrections? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Durano,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Sure.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Ms. Ebert, Ms. Dene,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, thank you. Notice regarding ex parte communications. Please be advised that this board is a quasi-judicial board, and the items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of a quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the quasi-judicial board. If anyone has made any contact with a board member, when the issue comes before the board, the member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication, the party who originated the communication, and whether the communication will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to be presented regarding the matters. Are there any deferrals on the agenda?
No, we have not received any changes to the agenda or deferrals. No, there's no changes.
Thank you. Okay. If any persons in the audience will be testifying today, please rise and be sworn in. In other words, if you'd like to speak at any time today on the record or make a comment, you must be signed in. So please raise your right hand. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the first item, which if I can get it up.
I mean, other than us, like, city people that are not talking.
Okay, our first item is, he says, we have local historic designation today, and our first item will be case file LHD 2023-001. Consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 645 Majorca Avenue, legally described as Lot 27, Block 16, Coral Gables, Section B, Miami-Dade Plat Book 5, 111. Okay. Are there any
Okay, good.
ex partes on? Hearing none,
Actually, I live down the street. I pass by this house all the time.
We'll let that go.
Just for the record, sorry, Mr.
And-
Garcia Pons, you remain unbiased and able to hear this application today?
I do remain unbiased and able to make a decision on this property today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the property at 645 Majorca Avenue is before you for consideration for designation as a local historic landmark. The designation was initiated initially by the Board of Architects. As per Article 8, Section 8-103 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code, criteria for designation, a local historic landmark must have significant character, interest, or value as part of the historical, cultural, archaeological, aesthetic, or architectural heritage of the city, state, or nation. For designation, a property must meet one of the criteria outlined in the code. This property is eligible as a local historic landmark based on 3 of the criteria, which are historical cultural significance, criteria 4. It exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community. Architectural significance, criteria 1. It portrays the environment in an era of history characterized by one or more distinctive architectural styles. Criteria 2, it embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period or method of construction. The single-family residence is in Coral Gables Section B. It sits on a 50 by 138 lot between Casilla and Segovia Streets. It's outlined in a yellow box on the screen in front of you. In the early 1920s, city founder George Merrick drew from the Garden City and City Beautiful movements of the 19th and early 20th centuries to create his vision for Coral Gables as a fully conceived Mediterranean-inspired city. It is now considered one of the first modern planned communities in the United States. In November of 1921, the first lots were offered for sale and continued at a rapid pace until the devastating hurricane in September of 1926. The construction of the home at 645 Majorca Avenue in 1925 occurred during this initial phase. It is amongst the earliest homes in the city and represents Merrick's vision for Coral Gables. Built for engineer David Walker, it remained in the Walker family for the next 50 years. The home at 645 Majorca Avenue was designed by architect Phineas Paste, one of the premier architects of Coral Gables. He joined Merrick's team in 1923 and was highly influential in crafting the Spanish-inspired Mediterranean Revival style that became the founding hallmark of Coral Gables. In May 1925, when the city was incorporated, Merrick named him as the supervising architect. 645 Majorca Avenue was designed a few months later in August of that year. In addition to numerous private homes like this one, Paste was instrumental in the design of much of the infrastructure of Coral Gables, including City Hall, the Colonnade Building, the San Sebastian Hotel Apartments, several of the city's plazas, the Douglas Entrance, the Whiteway streetlights, and later in the 1930s, the Coral Gables Police and Fire Station, which is now home to the Coral Gables Museum and our department. The home is located in Coral Gables Section B and is marked here by the yellow star. Located just north of the Granada Golf Course, Section B was one of the earliest areas developed with lots first offered for sale on December 27, 1921. As seen here in this 1922 map, Majorca Avenue was one of the northern boundaries of Coral Gables. Built in 1925, the rear of 645 Majorca Avenue originally abutted the groves of Miami pioneer Charles Gertman. The groves were developed in the late 40s, and the area was ultimately annexed by the city of Coral Gables in 1948. Coral Gables Section B was fully developed by the 1960s and retains its context as a single-family residential neighborhood to date. As discussed in the designation report, construction during the 1920s adhered almost exclusively to Merrick's Mediterranean ideals. However, after the Great Depression, the city shifted its architectural focus. The home at 645 Majorca Avenue is one of the remaining Mediterranean Revival single-family residences built during the 1920s. It exemplifies Merrick's vision for Coral Gables and the founding architecture of the city. Merrick chose to develop Coral Gables as a Mediterranean-inspired city, as he felt this type of architecture harmonized best with South Florida's climate and lifestyle. During the 1920s, building designs combined elements commonly used in Spanish, Moorish, and Italian architecture and has come to be known as the Mediterranean Revival style. During the initial development period, structures and amenities were built almost exclusively in this style. As illustrated in the following slides, the home at 645 Majorca exhibits numerous character-defining features of the Mediterranean Revival style, including, but not limited to, the rectangular corner tower with its stylized battlement parapet cornice and masonry plaque, the low-pitched barrel tile-clad parapet shed roofs, the arched front entry with its masonry surround topped with a keystone, the double-arched opening springing from a central ionic column, the varied decorative arrangement of projecting round and square vents, textured stucco, arched openings with masonry surrounds at the southeast corner, applied decorative elements under the front facade porch windows, molded cornice line, and the projecting masonry sills of the varied recessed casement windows. The property has a two-story single-family home under a flat roof whose parapet shed roofs are clad with two-piece barrel tile as seen in the aerial photograph in the center of the slide. Also on the property is a detached two-car garage building which can be glimpsed here behind the gate. The simple structure has a flat roof and clad in textured stucco to match the original home. A hallmark feature of the Mediterranean Revival style is its rectangular tower is the rectangular tower that rises at the southwest corner of the home. The tower is flush with the front facade but projects approximately 18 inches on the west side facade. The tower's stylized cornice comprises of protruding moldings and applied cast dentil pieces that hearken to a battlement parapet. Centered below this ensemble is a coat of arms plaque. The front entry faces south at the base of the tower. The door sits within a molded frame inset in an arched masonry surround, scored to simulate blocks of stone and topped with a keystone. In the fanlight area is a smaller coat of arms plaque. These features are currently obscured by an awning, but are clearly visible in a 2018 Google Earth image shown in the lower right. The southeast corner of the home was originally a screened porch with an arched opening facing the street on the south facade and an double-arched opening on the east side facade. The arched openings, like the front entry, have masonry surrounds. Note the applied ornamentation below the street-facing window. On the east side, the double arch springs from central engaged ionic column. This area remained a screened porch until at least December 1979, when it decided as such on permits. Sometime in the next decade, the screens were replaced with windows, and by 1989, when central air conditioning was introduced to the home, the porch had been enclosed and was noted as a sunroom. There's a menu. Other character-defining features of note on the original portion of the home include textured stucco casement windows with projecting sills, cornice moldings, and decoratively arranged groups of vents. The cornice molding running below the parapet shed roofs is currently obscured partially by the roof flashings. Under the cornice line between the windows are the grouped vents. On the front facade, the vents are round. On the side facades, they are rectangular. The rear facade is comprised primarily of additions. A one-story, two-room addition, a second-story terrace feature, and a raised patio were constructed along the rear of the house in 2013-2015. These additions only minimally impact the original home and are largely not visible from the street. The additions are proportionally compatible with the historic home, but have a different vocabulary from them. For example, the curved parapets, the large coping molding, the use of circular windows, and the series of clear view door openings dominate the rear facade are all distinctly different from the features of the original home. The variation in the stucco texture is also easily distinguishable from the rear addition from the original home. Hence, these additions fall within the Secretary of the Interior standards and do not adversely affect the historic integrity of the home. In conclusion, permitted in August 1925, the single-family property at 645 Majorca Avenue was built during the initial development of the city and demonstrates the Mediterranean-inspired archetype envisioned by founder George Merrick. The home was designed by architect Phineas Paste, a member of Merrick's original design team, who was highly influential in crafting the Mediterranean Revival style that became the founding hallmark of the city. Amongst other notable buildings Paste designed, 645 Majorca Avenue is a notable example of one of his single-family homes. The two-story home was designed in the Mediterranean Bible style with hallmark features that include the rectangular corner tower with its stylized battlement, parapet, cornice, and masonry plaque, the arched entry front door, the masonry surround, top of the keystone, and the double-arched opening springing from the column. The property retains its historic integrity and is part of the collection of quality buildings that serves as a visible reminder of the history and the cultural heritage of the city. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the local designation, the property at 645 Majorca Avenue, based on its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any questions of the board regarding the presentation by staff? Okay. Have any presentation or questions by the property owner?
Would you like to speak? Sure.
Good evening.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bruce Katz, 645 Majorca Avenue, Coral Gables. Good evening.
Please
All of
speak as close as you can to the microphone. We've already discovered that these don't work real well.
Okay, that's a lot better, yes. All right.
Thank you.
One more time. Bruce Katz, 645 Majorca Avenue. It's a great honor to be here tonight. Our home is 100 years old, and this designation, I'm sure, will be well-deserved. The only question I might have is, right now, we're in the middle of undergoing a renovation of the detached garage, and it's about halfway through. Of course, it's fully approved by everybody and all the boards. But the only concern I always have is sometimes something unexpected may turn up, and where we may need some type of approval. And I would hope that the board would understand that the project is already ongoing and would be lenient in judging any approvals which may or may never even come up, but may. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. Is there anyone else who would like to speak
Could
to
I,
this?
sir, could I just say that most of the things that would come up in construction could be handled administratively by staff, so you wouldn't have to wait to get on this board for the most part.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Okay, well, hearing none. Do we have any other questions of the board? Ms. Rolando?
I love your house, and as a owner of another Phineas Paste house, you're very, very lucky. I love the floor plan. I just think this is a super house.
Sell that.
Wait, sorry.
For the record, please, thank you.
Thank you. We've lived there since 1993. Our son, we brought him up there, and it's his home, and we're very, very happy to be there and consider it to be an honor. And Phineas Paste, I think his name speaks for itself.
Anyone else? No, that's good. Okay. All right, so we're going to, so with all that, if there's nothing else, we're going to close the public hearing portion of this and move it back to the board. Any questions, discussions? If not, I'd like to move the motion.
There's, okay, let me get the exact text. I move to approve the local historic designation of the property located at 645 Majorca Avenue, legally described as Lot 27, Block 16, Coral Gables, Section B, according to the plat thereof recorded in Plat Book 5, page 111 of the public records of Miami-Dade County, Florida, based upon its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
All right, we have a motion. Like a second, please.
I would love to second it.
Okay, Mr. Garcia-Pons. All right, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Ms. Janay,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
okay, Ms. Alvarez? No, she's sitting, excuse me. Okay. Ms. Ebert,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Yes.
and Ms. Rolando.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are very
you.
happy to designate your home. Thank you. All right, our next item is case file LHD 2025-002, consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 1139 Venetia Avenue, described as Lot 5, Block 36, Coral Gables, Granada section, revised, Plat Book 8, page 113, Public Records, Miami-Dade, Florida.
Mr. Maxwell, just for the record, to note that Ms. Alvarez has joined us and will join us for this next item.
Thank you, Ms. Throckmorton.
Good afternoon. Anna Pernis, Preservation Officer. All right. The property at 1139 Venetia Avenue is before you for consideration for designation as a local historic landmark. The application was the result of a directive from the Board of Architects. The single-family home was permitted in September 1925. As per Article 8, Section 8-103 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code, criteria for designation of historic landmarks, a local historic landmark must have significant character, interest, or value as part of the historical, cultural, archaeological, aesthetic, or architectural heritage of the city, state, or nation. For designation of a property must meet one of the criteria outlined in the code. 1139 Venetia Avenue is eligible as a local historic landmark based on 3 criteria. Historical cultural significance, criteria 4, it exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, and social trends of the community. Architectural significance, criteria 1, it portrays the environment in an era of history characterized by one or more distinctive architectural style. And criteria 2, it embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period or method of construction. The property is located on a 50 by 110 interior lot in the Granada section that spans from Venetia Avenue to Venetia Terrace at Tangier Street. On the property are a single-family home and detached garage, both permitted in 1925. They retain their original style and character. Coral Gables was originally conceived as a suburb of Miami and attracted investors from across the nation during the South Florida real estate boom of the 1920s. Merrick drew from the Garden City and City Beautiful movements on the 19th and early 20th century to create his vision for a fully conceived Mediterranean-inspired city, which is now considered one of the first modern planned communities of the United States. The city's development history is divided into 3 major historical periods. During the initial development period, architectural design specifically combined elements commonly used in Spanish, Moorish, and Italian architecture. The home at 1139 Venetia Avenue espouses Merrick's Mediterranean ideals and was designed in the spirit of what are now known as Coral Gables cottages. The 1921 map on the left shows the layout of the Coral Gables lots first went on sale in November 1921. Initial sales were the direct vicinity of the Merrick homestead in Section A, circled here in red. Sales were very successful and the remainder of the land was divided into Sections B through I, as seen on the map on the right, and offered for sale throughout 1922. As sales took off, Merrick looked to expand his land holdings. Records indicate that he expended a tremendous amount of time in extending his holdings north of Tamiami Trail in the area highlighted in purple. Note that he initially only held the lots on either side of Granada Boulevard, denoted as Section F. By fall of 1923, Section F, which is highlighted here in green, was significantly expanded. Merrick renamed this area the Granada section and redirected hundreds of workers to lay streets, sidewalks, and water mains. Venetia Avenue is the red line on this plat map. In the Granada section, Merrick began to develop streetscapes following Garden City precepts. Unlike earlier sections, it was platted with large areas allocated for smaller, moderately priced homes. To showcase his vision, Merrick commissioned architects H. George Fink, Martin Hampton, and Louis Brum to design 58 Mediterranean-inspired homes to demonstrate that, though smaller, the moderately priced homes in Coral Gables would have the same quality of construction and aesthetic as the larger homes. In the Granada section, Merrick stated that these 58 homes would, quote, embody new and radical departures from the usual type of small house designing, with compactness, beauty, and comfort that will appeal to smaller families. Each home will be different, finely detailed design, end quote. Some of these one-story homes were the first of what would later be classified as Coral Gables cottages. As intended, these homes provided a model for and sparked interest in moderately priced houses, and a little over a year later, 1139 Venetia was permitted in this vein. Developing these streets was a source of pride for Merrick. In 1925, he stated, "Frequently at night, Mrs. Merrick and I drive through Coral Gables. We go into moderate price sections and we find something which gives me even more pride in the accomplishments of an ideal. People who formerly used stock plans can now have a well-appointed home. It is gratifying to see the difference in the attractiveness of one of our very moderately priced houses as compared to a house of similar cost in the unrestricted section of Miami. These moderately priced cottages are recognized as an important feature in the initial planning of Coral Gables, and 1139 Venetia Avenue is an example. The home was built for Glenn McConnell, a young art director from New York. In August 1926, McConnell and his home at 1139 Venetia were featured in the full-page ad seen here. Merrick chose to develop Coral Gables as a Mediterranean-inspired city because he felt that this type of architecture harmonized best with South Florida's climate and lifestyle. This home demonstrates the vision for adapting residential design to the rigors of South Florida's climate while maintaining the integrity of the Mediterranean revival style. Its thick masonry walls were intended to keep the home cool, and its light-colored stucco exterior to reflect the sun's heat. The window placement afforded much-needed ventilation in this tropical environment. It is constructed over a crawl space for added ventilation and separation from the high water table. The home also possesses numerous other character-defining features of the Mediterranean revival style. These include, but are not limited to, those listed here. They are discussed further in the designation report. The one-story house is constructed of masonry block units and clad with distinctive textured stucco. Much of the living space of the home is under a flat roof with simple parapets. The pitched roofs on the front facade over the original front porch are clad in barrel tile. The tile was originally a two-piece cap and pan. The current S-tile roof was installed in late 2024. The windows throughout the home are recessed with protruding sills and are predominantly awning and fixed in type. The windows were originally single-hung, and the round vents decoratively arranged in line are above many of the original windows on all facades. The home was designed as a two-bedroom house with a screened sleeping porch at its northeast corner and a full-length screened front porch. Other than enclosing the sleeping porch, it appears that the home remained in its original configuration until the mid-70s. In 1976, architect Les Bellinson submitted plans for alterations to the home. It included enclosing and dividing the full-length screened porch for living space, as well as moving the front door from the east end of the facade to the west. It accommodated the expansion of the master bedroom. The original front arch doorway was reduced in height, and a sill and plaque added to match the adjacent configuration of the windows. A fixed and awning window assembly was installed in the arched opening. Also at this time, the porte cochere was enclosed. The front and rear arched openings were reduced at the front of the awning window, and a plaque matching porch openings was installed. Due to the change in stucco, the original openings are discernible. Here are current interior photos of the enclosed porte cochere. Note that the original archway leading from the porte cochere to the front porch, although blocked, is retained. The opening leading into the home was also retained. Also note that the tiled flooring with decorative glazed tile insets. The flooring was common in the front porch areas in the 1920s Coral Gables homes. It is likely the front porch tile was reused in this area. Building records are clear that once the permit was filed by the architect, all work and other aspects of the alterations were done by the owner. There are other alterations to the home which permits have not been located, but seem to be to date to the same time period. This includes the replacement of other windows around the home and a small addition that connected the home to the garage. It is denoted in orange here. The front facade has several character-defining features of the Coral Gables cottage. Sweeping down at the southeast corner is a shouldered wing wall that ends as a base for the Mediterranean urn. Below the windows are the rectangular incised plaques. These insets have a smooth texture in direct contrast to the texture of the facade. On the gable face is an applied masonry decorative heraldic swag plaque, and other two of the arches, 3 round vents, are decoratively arranged in a line. As seen here, the swag plaque and round vents were originally painted a dark color to call attention to them. One of the hallmark features of the home is the distinctive Italian-style bell tower-inspired chimney that rises from the northwest corner of the original porte cochere and is prominently visible from the street. The west facade is comprised of the enclosed porte cochere, chimney stack, and the main living portion under the flat roof with parapets. At the north end of the roof line steps down to a flat roof over the small, undated addition that connects the home to the garage. At the center of the west facade, a pair of windows were enlarged to accommodate a pair of French doors. At the west end, there are 3 single-hung windows on the kitchen that appear to be original to the home. A top sash has vertical high-profile muttons. These windows should be used as a template for the future window replacements. The fenestration openings of the east facade largely intact. The arched opening behind the wing wall was originally part of the screened front porch. It was enclosed in the same manner as the front facade, and it likewise retains its incised plaque. The adjacent windows was originally a pair of single-hung windows. At an unknown date, a bay window replaced the pair, and the opening was reduced. However, the original protruding sills remain intact, and hence the initial size of the opening is easily discerned. At the north end was originally a screened sleeping porch. The horizontal openings and their associated round vents remain intact. In 1948, sales ads list the home as a 3-bedroom bungalow. This suggests that the enclosing of the front sleeping porch for a bedroom occurred prior to 1948. On the right is the rear elevations of the home and the original garage. The undated connector addition now provides a new rear entry. At the northwest corner of the property stands the original garage. It is a flat roof structure with a simple parapets and clad with stucco in the same texture as the main home. At the southwest corner is a flared 3/4 height wing wall. This 1926 photo shows a portion of the structure and is only image found to date. Access to the garage from Venetia was blocked when the porte cochere was enclosed in 1976. Glimpses of the current structure show that although the garage door was removed and openings remained recessed and discernible. Since the property spans 2 streets, the garage is still accessible from Venetia Terrace. All indications are that it was designed as a 1-car garage and servants' quarters. The original plot plan shows the garage size as a larger 1-car garage. Realtor notes on the back of the photo dated March 5, 1948, describe that this structure as a 1-car garage with 1 room and bath. In the 1948 sales ad, it is listed as a garage and guest quarters. In conclusion, permitted in September 1925, the home at 1139 Venetia Avenue is amongst the earliest homes built in the city. Coral Gables was launched during the South Florida real estate boom of the 1920s, and founder George Merrick drew from the Garden City and City Beautiful movements to create his vision for a fully conceived and cohesively designed Mediterranean-inspired city. Designed in the Mediterranean revival style, it embraces the aesthetics and climate adaptations of the style as developed by Merrick's design team. Built in the Granada section, 1139 Avenue represents Merrick's plan for this area. In 1923, in accordance with the Garden City precepts, portions of the Granada section were platted for modest homes. In accordance with the Merrick's vision, these smaller homes were built with the same high-quality construction and Mediterranean revival style features as other structures that shaped the new city in the early years. They are recognized as an important feature in the initial planning of Coral Gables, and 1139 Avenue is a good example. While there have been alterations to the home over the last century, it is still easily recognized as a small 1920s Mediterranean revival style home designed in accordance with Merrick's vision and is part of the collection of quality residences built during the land boom era that contributes to Coral Gables' sense of place over time. Hence, the property 1139 contributes to the historic fabric of the city of Coral Gables, and staff recommends approval of its local historic designation based on its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
No, thank you. Is that the presentation? Okay.
Yes, that is
Wonderful.
staff presentation.
Is there any presentation or discussion by the applicant? Nope. Okay. Are there any questions by the board? Mr. Silva?
I've got a question. I think that this does meet the criteria for designation, but I've got a question. Obviously, this is non-conforming because there's no garage and there's no porte cochere, right? But I see some evidence in the package that there's some architectural drawings, looks like something may be coming up. If we designate this as it is today, is that like a de facto variance or
No, it's
how
not
does
a
that work?
it would not be a de facto variance. So the application actually went before Board of Architects for renovation and modifications to the building. That's when the Board of Architects had referred them to come see historic. There are discussions, and some of the drawings actually that we use are part of their presentation. And so they're planning on, putting back the correct windows, reinstating the garage at the rear. So there were other illegal modifications that were made prior to this owner that he's correcting as well. So there'll be something before you pretty soon.
Thank you.
Okay. And any other questions, discussion? Members?
Oh, no, for public.
Okay, nothing else. So we'll call the public meeting closed, and we'll begin to move to a vote. I'd like to have a motion, please.
I can make the motion.
Just,
Ms. Dene?
sorry, may I, for the public comment that was received in advance of the meeting, I did get letters of support from Ms. Ellen Dyer, Mr. Bruce Fitzgerald, Ms. Vicky Serta, and from the HPACG, Historic Preservation Association of Coral Gables, in support of the designation of 1139 Venetia Avenue and the designation of 645 Majorca Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the local historic designation of the property at 1139 Venetia Avenue based upon the finding that it meets 3 of the criteria stipulated in Article 8, Section 103, specifically criterion 4, 1, and 2, as it exemplifies the historical, cultural significance, and architectural significance of the community.
We have a motion on the table. We have a second.
Second.
Ms. Rolando, seconded. Okay, any discussion further? If not, call the roll, please.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Durana?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Ms. Ebert?
Yes.
Ms. Dene?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Thank you.
And just for housekeeping purposes, I believe that Ms. Throckmorton mentioned that Ms. Alvarez had joined us, so we now have a full quorum. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Motion passed unanimously. All right, we'll move on to case file AV 2020-001, an application requesting ad valorem tax relief for the property at 1717 North Greenway Drive, a contributing resource within the Country Club of Coral Gables Historic District, legally described as lots 2324, Block 23, Coral Gables Section B, Plat, Book 5, page 111, Miami-Dade Records. The related special certificate of appropriateness, COA SP 2019-014, was granted design approval by the Historic Preservation Board on September 19th, 2019. Presentation?
Thank you. So this is,
Does
very
anyone
excited to bring
have
this to
any,
you. Both the architect is actually here and the contractor who will be
Yeah.
leaving you.
Yes. Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, Mr. Durana has shared that as the contractor to this project, he will be recusing himself. So I'm going to ask him to leave the room and we'll file the appropriate paperwork afterwards. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The architect just happens to be here as a matter of something else, so. This is a really great application that we've received for the Part 2. I hope you guys are pleased with it and had a chance to look at all the photos that are included as the attachments, because they're not all on the screen, but there is a lot of work that happened here, a lot of really good work too. So this is a contributing resource in the Country Club of Coral Gables Historic District, which was designated in 1989. It was built in 1927, designed by architect H.B. Taylor. The original resident of the property was Achille Renuart, the president of the Renuart Realty Company, who was a big name in Coral Gables back in the day, and they retained the property for a very long time. As Mr. Maxwell stated, you guys did approve the special certificate of appropriateness previously. So as I scroll through the photos, we're going to start exterior, walk around the building, then go interior while I tell you everything that they did. This is a 40s photo of the house as it was. Looks very similar now. So these are the before pictures, and you obviously can read the captions. So the general restoration renovation included restoration and repair of the original wood windows and doors and stained glass transoms, new impact-resistant windows and doors to match existing on the house, restoration and repair of original wrought iron details, restoration of the original marble fireplace, restoration of the original staircase and railing, removal of later additions at the north, the rear end of the house, removal of later additions to the original auxiliary structure, removal of a second floor bathroom in order to restore the entry tower into a triple height volute on the interior, reestablishing an original sunroom on the second floor, reestablishing a previously enclosed garage, restoration of the black and white marble flooring, terrazzo flooring, and wood floors, removal of drop ceilings to reestablish original ceiling heights, reestablished various original plan features and archway in the living room, new bare tile roof, new copper gutters, painted the house and the detached garage, stucco repair and replacement, a new MEP. The additions to the home, which I think I already passed, were to the rear, two-story addition, approximately 1,200 square feet. To the rear of the home, consisting of a family room, kitchen on the first floor, and master bedroom suite on the second floor. And a one-story addition that you just saw to the auxiliary structure, consisting of a playroom, covered porch, and storage area. So side improvements include restoration and repair of original wrought iron gateway and fencing, which you are seeing now, removal of existing swimming pool and installation of a new swimming pool and pool deck. Just a little bit of work. Installation of new walkways and gravel driveway, new site walls, new installation of new landscaping as well. So these are the interior photos. So what's significant about this is the entry foyer. There was a master bathroom that was built over this foyer, making it a low one-story feature. They removed that bathroom and restored it to its full height, which is really amazing.
Very nice. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. This was the sunroom on the second floor. It was partitioned up into living space, and they opened it back up and reestablished the windows on the east side and restored the terrazzo floor.
Wow. Nice and caustic tile.
It's a good one, so we obviously recommend approval. And the owner is here in the audience if they wish to say anything or you wish to congratulate them, but we're very happy with how it turned out.
Why, thank you. I have a question for you. The original wood windows had no muttons in them? They were all just...
Correct.
Yeah, wow, that's very rare for that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions by the board? Okay. Anybody from the audience wish to speak to this matter? Here.
So impressed with this. I'm so impressed with this house. It's amazing. And it's just incredible that someone would restore the windows and bring back spaces. It's a pleasure to see.
Hi, I'm Kathy Marlin.
Hi, please come up to the microphone, speak into it, state your name and...
No, I have not been sworn in.
Okay,
no.
please state your name and your
Sure.
address
swear
when
me
you're
in first?
sworn in.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kathy Marlin. I live at 717 North Greenway Drive, Coral Gables, Florida, 33134.
Please
I'm here
speak
with my
closer to the
husband.
microphone.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm here with my husband, Chris, who's hiding in the back. And it's been a labor of love, a long labor of love. We bought the house in 2019, and we're still working on it. I guess it never ends. But we're only the third owners of the home, and I think that is a testament to how much people who've lived in this house have loved it. And we're grateful for the two previous families who lived there because they took care of it and they didn't take out many of the original features. So we were able to just restore them and bring them back to life. And ironically, Luis, the architect, is here. And you're right, the foyer, when he came up with the idea of reestablishing it, that was a game changer for the house. It's really, really something special. And anyway, anytime anybody wants to come and see it, it's really a gem. So I thank Luis for his work.
Trust me, you're going to have people descending on your home, so don't say that.
Ms. Spain will be there tomorrow for coffee.
There you go, exactly, 9 a.m. I'll see you all there. But I forgot to mention that we did receive two preservation awards for the house from Dade Heritage Trust. I brought one of them with me, so I forgot to put that in the packet. But it's been a labor of love, and I guess I should thank my husband for just letting me have control of the accounts and not looking too closely at the bills. But thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would just speak to this?
Just thank you. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the foyer is stunning.
Congratulations to you and your team and the architect.
I should disclose that the Marlins are neighbors of mine, and I have done work for Mr. Marlin's company, but I didn't represent them at all on this.
Can you be unbiased in your decision?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Alvarez, you,
I was just saying congratulations to the owners, the team, and the architect. It's a great project.
anyone else? Any further discussion? If not, we'll close this public hearing and move it back here. Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd like to have a motion, please.
I can make a motion.
Ms. Spain?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval for the ad valorem tax exemption for the property at 717 North Greenway Drive.
Do we have a,
I will second.
Ms. Dene? Okay. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any amendments? If not, please call the roll.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Ebert?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Janae?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mr. Maxwell?
Very happily, yes. Thank you very much, and congratulations on a beautiful home, and I hope it doesn't go on forever. All right, we're going to move on to the next one, special certificates of appropriateness. I'm going to review case file COASP 2025-005, application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 4005 Santa Maria Street, described as Lot 2 and the north 25 feet of Lot 3, Block 96, Coral Gables Country Club, Section 5. According to the plat book 23, page 55, Public Records, Miami-Dade. Application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and site work. Variants have also been requested from Article 2, Section 2-101D4 of the Coral Gables zoning code for the minimum side setback. Presentation?
Good afternoon. The residence at 4005 Santa Maria Street is considered a contributing resource within the Santa Maria Street Historic District. The residence was designed in 1948 by architect Vernon D. Lamp in a modernistic style. The proposed addition and modifications to the rear of the building are meant to take advantage of the expansive golf course views, and the new roof structure over the existing rear terrace is a response to a non-conforming roof slope condition. Locating the addition to the existing 8-foot side setback creates a design that does not overwhelm the massing of the historic building and provides the owner additional space while retaining interior features like the exposed roof rafters and clerestory window in the living room. Here's the 1940s photo, or historic photo. The unique design of this home presents a challenge to the expansion. Staff acknowledges this and is supportive of the proposed 2-story addition. The overall low-slung horizontality of the home, with the alterations proposed, is erased, and this is the most evident on the rear elevation, with the repetition of vertical windows and nano doors. The staff recommends that original window configuration should be better integrated into the new design and requests that applicant continues to study this application with the staff as part of the conditions. Apologies. As relayed to both the architect and the homeowner, staff is also opposed to the alterations to the front facade. The open carport and horizontal ribbon windows are original features of this home and should be maintained. Staff supports the return of the crab orchard stone to the chimney and recommends that the steel cap be limited to its original footprint. The front door assembly is also drawn to be replaced. Staff would recommend that if it is to be replaced, it should mirror exactly the original configuration and that a pivot door would not be appropriate. The variances were also requested of the minimum side setback. The Coral Gables zoning code requires that all properties maintain a 20% overall side setback. For properties with a street frontage of over 100, the maximum required is 20 feet. The south side's existing setback of the home is 10'4", which would necessitate a setback of 9'8" at the north. The applicant is proposing to utilize the setback of the demolished service yard wall at 8 feet. Given the irregular shape of the lot and the limited space for new development of the rear property, staff supports granting of the variance and believes it meets the criteria listed in the table. The application requests design approval for the additions, alterations to the residence and site work. The 2-story and rear additions proposed are at the secondary elevation, subordinate to the historic building and compatible with the design of the property, as well as the context for the historic district. The applicant requests variances for the side yard setback for the addition, and due to the existing site conditions, staff supports the requests. Maintaining original features of the building is a crucial part of preserving the historic and architectural integrity, and the construction of the addition should not radically change the existing historic fabric. Staff recommends that the applicant continues to work with staff to integrate more of the original elements, including the open carport, ribbon windows, and horizontal proportions to the design, especially in the areas visible from the street. Staff recommends approval of this as special certificate of appropriateness with the conditions noted, and approval of the variance request for the minimum side setback. If the applicant is ready to do their presentation, just let me know which one you'd like to start with.
Could you start with the HPV presentation, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Luis Howdy. I'm with East Shore Architects, and I'm the architect for this property at 4005 Santa Maria. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through quickly the project and show you some of the insight and what we're keeping and the issues we had with the house. And then we received staff commentary on Monday, I believe, and we've quickly thought about everything that they had to say, and we have some changes to the elevations to conform to what staff is asking that I'll show you secondly. Is this mine? Okay. What? This way?
She's all powerful.
Yeah. I'm not. Okay, here we go. So,
So while they're figuring that out, I should disclose that I lived for 30 years on the street. So I know the house well. I don't think I've ever been in it, but I won't be biased or anything.
I walked the house.
I walked the house when it was for sale, I think like 3-4 years ago or something like that. When it was, it's a nice house. But I understand the difficulty because it's
Has
a
anybody ever
it's a
walked by
difficult
this
design.
house? Please, please recuse yourself.
Just
if you-
confirming, it doesn't sound like either of you have any actual voting conflicts, and both of you remain unbiased and continue to be able to hear this application.
So am I supposed to be doing something?
The board will note the historic streetlight in front of
Okay,
the house.
so I guess this is the most important photograph that I have to offer. This is the $1 million shot for the house. It has, the most redeeming quality that this house has is this beautiful clear story roof system that it has. They even, at that time, they encased the lolly columns in bamboo to hold it up. The problem with the roof is that on the golf course side, the roof has a 1.5 in 12 pitch, and the homeowner cannot get a mortgage because you can't get a roof tile that goes on it. The only roof tile that would work is a flat tile. But obviously, we don't want to knock down this roof because what's the sense of doing that, right? So we came up with a scheme where we would preserve the exposed framed rafters and put a parapet wall around it so that we could actually put a flat roof on that slope that wouldn't be seen anywhere except from by God, and added a porch. So if you see here, this is broken down into 3 levels. The clear story is the first one, and the living porch is the second one, and the third one that you see in the back is an addition that was added later in the 80s, I believe it was added, but it brought it very, very low, so it's only about 8 feet. So we're going to remove that later addition, and that's where we're going to add the porch to conceal that roof. Just more pictures. So the photograph on the bottom right is the wall that's original to the house. Beyond that, which is air conditioned now, is an old porch that has been air conditioned. This is going around the house. So if you look at the right side, what we're doing is we're converting the house only has a living room and a family room, and they're all very narrow. They're like 14 feet wide. So the original master bedroom, we're converting it into a living room, and the living room is becoming a dining room. The guest bedroom that's in the front, even though it has a very low pitched roof, it's going to stay that way, and we're just reconfiguring the bathroom and the closets. And then to the left side of the house, what we're doing is we're adding a 2-story addition. It was really the only place to place the addition because of the septic tank situation, the size that the septic tank needed to be done. So that's going there, and it's a master below, and on top we're putting 2 bedrooms because initially this was just a 3-bedroom house, and they need a 4 to 5 bedroom house. This is a 2nd floor addition. So you come up there, and then you have the 2 bedrooms with the 2 baths. What we did in the elevation is that pop-up that goes as a connector, we sort of used a Wrightian element to do that with a flat roof so that it wouldn't impede with the addition, and then added the 2nd floor, and we tried every which way to put that roof, and this one turned out to be the best one. The owner is requesting on the right side to lower the ribbon windows so that the guest bedroom could have a view out, and also to lower the kitchen window an additional 8 inches, and to combine the carport and the garage into one garage because each one is too narrow. She has a big car. The car has a 4-foot door. It bangs into it, and you just simply can't open it. Plus, they don't live here year-round. They only live here in the winter months, and they want to store their car in a certain place. So what I did to mitigate the idea of the carport and the garage is that I put the garage door back 3 feet so that it would create, Where the carport is, the garage door, I moved it back 3 feet to mitigate the notion that there used to be a porch there, and keep the right side that has that opening that you can see on the left bottom one, that big opening, we'll just fill it in with glass so that we can keep as much of the memory of the carport available, but we really do need to take down the wall between the garage and the carport to make it a two-car garage where she can pull in on the right side and open the door and get out of the car, and also be able to store it. In the rear, what we've done is obviously there's golf course view and the house is very low, so we took the same window rhythm, which is about 4 feet, and added glass going across the entire back facade. So the master bedroom, starting at the right, has windows. The den has windows, and then that whole living room structure has windows. And then at the left, where the living room is, it would also have windows. Now, we've looked at what you guys have said, and we've come up with an alternate to this that I think works a lot better, and we're happier with a rear facade, with what we would propose now. But that's basically what we've done there. This is the shot that looks to the Riviera Country Club and the long view of the golf course. So we added the windows on the top and as much windows that we could from the master, so you look out. The drawing in the top is a very original house. The second drawing is when that porch was added, and this is our proposal here. We're bringing back the crab orchard stone and putting a Madeira roof. Madeira roof comes in 3 brown tones, basically. Depending on which crab orchard stone we land on, we'd like to pick the appropriate Madeira roof so that they coordinate. That's facing 4001 Santa Maria. And this would be the idea for the porch. We're going to put Nana doors along the whole perimeter there and do a trellis system that opens and closes so that they can get as much natural light as possible into the space. And this is what it would look like. That's the board approval there. So could we go through the response to all your questions? If you could put the elevations, the revised elevations.
You want the alternate elevations, right?
Alternate elevations, yeah. Okay, so the top one is what we're proposing, and we really want the garage to be enclosed. So what we are doing here is that we're bringing back all the openings to exactly what they were. We're going to keep on the right side the ribbon window. We're going to keep the smaller kitchen window. We're going to replace the entire front door with it to look exactly the same way as it is. And obviously the angled windows in that living room are going to be redone. But our big ask is really to enclose that garage and to be able to take down the wall in between. Let me go to the next one. Over here, what we did was that off to the left where that guest bedroom is, we did the original window, which happens to be bigger than the one we were proposing. Putting it back, then we're putting back the bathroom window. The ribbon window that was there, we can't possibly put back. And then the 2 living room windows, what we've done is raise them a foot off the floor. And we've done that around the entire house consistently. And then here, so originally we were going to put Nana doors. Nana doors come in a 3-foot system. The house originally had a 4-foot module for all the windows. The owner has decided that she's okay with sliding glass doors, so we're bringing back the exact module that's in the inside wall there, and putting sliders, and then per staff recommendation, we're just putting the steel columns for the trellis straight down without putting any crab orchard stone on there. And to keep it consistent, what we've done is on the living room side, we've made that opening also 3 4-foot sections so that it all looks the same. Then the bedroom windows and the den windows were raised a foot to look more like windows as opposed to glass doors. And that's basically it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I've got a response to the conditions. Condition number 1, we agree to the condition, which is windows and door glass will be clear with no tint, reflectivity, or low E coating. Number 2, request approval for revised configuration. The original window configurations has been revised to better integrate with the new design. Request approval of revised window configuration by the board. Please see the revised elevations for reference. This is what I'm showing you now, these here. Number 3, request approval for proposed design. While the owner's car fits in both garage and the carport, there is insufficient space to open the car door wide enough for safe entry and exit. Additionally, as this is a seasonal resident, the owner prefers enclosed parking for vehicle protection, which the carport does not provide. In an effort to memorialize the carport, we have pushed the garage door back 3 feet from the face of the wall to create shadow lines and distinctions. Enclosing the carport would also align with the mid-century character of the home, as mid-century homes typically featured 2-car garages. We request approval of the enclosed garage by the board. Number 4, agree to the condition. A sample of new crab orchard stone will be provided to Historic Preservation Board staff for review prior to installation. Number 5, request approval of replacement. The front door assembly will be replaced with impact clear glass designed to replicate the original configuration. Number 6, agree to the condition. The original window openings on the south elevation will all be retained. So the street face will all have the exact windows. Number 7, request approval for revised configuration. We intend to follow the original modulation of the rear glass walls and place the columns on the new porch to align with the new configuration. Number 8, we agree to the condition. A separate standard certificate of appropriateness will be obtained for the swimming pool if it is permitted separately. Number 9, we agree to the condition. Elevations of the proposed fencing, including the house for context, will be provided for staff approval. And number 10, agree to the condition. The roof tile will be Boral, Madeira roof tile, in one of the following brown tones: autumn wood, mountain wood, or vintage wood. The final selection will be based on coordination with the approved crab orchard stone for staff approval. I think I covered them all.
And just so for the board to know, this was also the first time we have seen the alternate elevations. So I don't have a lot of comment on them because it is the first time going over them.
Thank you. You're finished with your presentation?
I am.
All right,
I'll
thank
answer
you.
any
Are there
questions.
any questions of the applicant?
Public comment.
Public comment?
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I might not have heard correctly, but with regard to condition number 7, are you saying that the columns will be finished in all metal or all stone?
All metal.
All metal.
All metal.
Thank you very much.
Anna, to follow up on that, you had just seen these elevations. Do you feel they reflect the suggestions?
I would have to
team had?
review and go against the original plans to see what other details can be integrated with that. There was a mutton pattern that was part of the original design that might help kind of bring another layer of the historic character back. But again, I would want to see them against each other.
Well, the problem is that since the doors are only 4 feet wide, sliding glass doors with muttons are the most horrible thing that could exist on earth.
Yeah, well,
So-
again, that's why I didn't know. I've seen sliding glass doors for the first time, because before the proposal was
right,
nano.
so we decided to agree on the original modulation of the house. So we did that whole front facade with that modulation. That pushed us from using bifold doors, a nano system, to sliding glass doors that come in 4 foot up to 5 feet. So these are about 4'3" each. But quite honestly, I don't want to put buttons on them.
Yeah. But it would also apply to like the window configuration
I beg your
around the
pardon?
house.
I beg.
That it would also apply to the window configuration, the smaller windows within the single.
So the only other
bedroom.
ones that would have it are the ones in the only ones that had that, because what it had was an oriel window in the bottom, a fixed window in the middle, and an oriel window on the top, right?
No, I'm talking about the windows on the other elevations. Like at the
We
front
changed them.
elevation,
We
there
changed-
was
we-
a
We
two-light.
changed them all back to the original. We changed the whole front facade to the original windows.
Right, but you have clear view without any buttons provided in your alternate elevations.
For the front, they didn't have any.
It had one horizontal on the front elevation. Again, that's why I need to
Okay,
go over
all right.
the plans with.
Well, I'm happy to follow up with that, but that's what
Yeah.
that's what we like to do. I'm happy to go and review with staff for their approval.
I have one question.
Okay.
Did you say the roof is going to be louvered to allow light to come in on the porch?
The covered porch, they have trellised louvered systems that open and close mechanically. So it could be closed so that you don't get rain or dew if you want to entertain, and it can be open to have full natural light.
It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing.
Ms. Alvarez,
Oh, and I just wanted to say thank you for such a complete,
please speak
for
next to the
such a
microphone.
complete presentation. I know these houses from this time period are very difficult to work with, so I think this is a good project.
Mr. Durano?
I second that because I've been to the house. It's very cool. I mean, it's a very unique house. But I do like the fact that you guys went back to the original window design in the front. I think that helped a lot. And I think the 4-panel slider looks really good, and the skinny columns. I think all those changes, I mean, assuming staff is okay with them, I like that a lot. I think it brings, it keeps in line with the design of the house. And then, the Madeira tile is great because the S tile doesn't look good.
Right.
So that's nice too, because the Madeira is not a cheap tile, so it's nice that the owners selected that one.
Mr. Garcia-Ponce?
I echo the sentiment of the board. I really appreciate the alternate elevations. I was thinking that I was going to recommend exactly those edits that you had made, so I appreciate staff's report and your movement. The one that I think I thought was the most impactful was the widening of the garage door in the front, so it wasn't sort of shoehorned in with the smaller version, and it actually was true to the width of the new opening. Since you did everything else I was thinking of, the only thing I would maybe ask you to consider, it's not a requirement of any kind, is those are roll tops, right? Those are roll doors. The garage doors are going to roll up.
It won't be a roll door. It'll be a regular door that
It'll be
opens.
out.
Yeah, both of them will be that. There's plenty of space there to do that.
The only comment I had or thought I had was to maybe make that glazing of that particular piece so that it would be technically, like you have windows on the inside. So if you
So-
wanted to glaze it now, it's
Do
different.
glass garage door for that one?
Yeah, that would be something to think about. I think the solution of widening it to the width is the appropriate one. The only one bridge too far would be if it were glazing, it would feel like if it was the open.
Well, I'm cool with that. I don't know about the owner. And, in the Board of Architects, we never allow glass front doors. So,
Yeah.
You're in a quandary, aren't you?
yeah, so,
We can overrule that. Thank you.
okay.
Any questions out on here on the left side? Okay, anything else over here? Okay, do we have any public?
Just a quick comment, Louis. I echo everyone's comments. I appreciate the difficulty of working with this typology. I especially appreciate the fact that you're keeping, we are always thinking about the exterior, right? But I think in this case, one of these cool features of the house is the interior, right? That first
Exactly.
shot that you showed, right? And I'm glad that you're able to keep, even though it's not something the public can appreciate, it's an excellent feature of the house that I think is important to save. So I'm glad that you're doing that. I mean, it comes at a cost, right? We're adding that parapet on the outside, but I appreciate it, and I think it's the right move to do.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other comments? Okay.
I
was
would
it-
just have, sorry, I would
Ms.
just have
Today?
questions for staff when we get to the
Please, go ahead.
discussion portion, so I'll wait with
Go
my
ahead.
comments. No, I think I should wait with my
Okay.
comments.
All right.
I just
Ms.
have,
Spain?
I think everything you're doing is appropriate. I also went through it and agreed with staff on the comments in the staff report. I'm a little surprised that staff can't comment because we're here looking at it for the first time also. And it would be helpful if you either, liked it or didn't like it on your first take on it, but I think we're all fairly comfortable with it.
Is the board recommending for us to be able to enclose the garage and make it a two-car garage?
I have no problem with what you're doing with the
There has
garage.
been no recommendation yet.
Yeah, I think we need more
haven't
discussion.
decided
have a
on that. I
motion.
can
Oh,
just tell
okay,
you
because
for me.
that's the important thing. I can work with everything else.
Well, for me, I don't have an issue with it. I think it's very clever that what you're doing, and I totally understand why they would want an enclosed garage. So I personally don't have a problem with it, but I just
Okay.
speak for me.
And while we were having the discussion, I pulled up at least the elevations for me to reference from the original plans. And so there were some mutton patterns that were involved. I totally understand not wanting to add muttons to sliding glass doors. I get that. But there were muttons for some of the other openings that are, the right proportions and uses that I think could help kind of bring in that character, the historic character of the building. But again, I think most of the alternates that you provided respond to the comments that we had. There's just that little layer of, making sure that everything is matching what was in the plans.
All right. Do we have any public comments that we received on this?
Yes, we do.
Would you please read them into the record?
While Ms. Piernas gets that ready, this is a letter that was received. Apparently, this is a neighbor who had an emergency, who sent a representative in her stead. They sent a letter that Ms. Piernas will read into the record.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this?
I'm going to read it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay.
So this is from the property owner, Jeanette Pena Hall, 4001 Santa Maria Street. Dear members of the Historic Preservation Board, I'm writing to formally oppose the variance request associated with case file COA SP 2025-005 for the property at 4005 Santa Maria Street, which seeks to reduce the required side setback from 9 feet 8 inches to 8 feet. While I appreciate the board's commitment to reviewing applications that impact our historic neighborhood, I strongly urge you to deny this request in order to uphold the original intent of the setback regulations that have long preserved the character, integrity, and planned aesthetics of Coral Gables. Preserving the intent of the setback regulations, the existing setback requirements were not arbitrarily established, but were carefully designed to, 1, maintain architectural and historical cohesion. Coral Gables was master planned to preserve the harmonious relationship between structures, open spaces, and the natural landscape. Setback regulations play a critical role in ensuring that new additions and modifications remain in scale with the surrounding properties, preventing overcrowding and preserving the distinct character of the area. A reduction in the side setback could set a precedent that gradually erodes the uniformity and balance that define the historic district. Number 2, protect open spaces and scenic views. The setback standards safeguard the aesthetic integrity of the Coral Gables Country Club golf course, ensuring that residential structures do not encroach upon or disrupt the carefully planned visual experience for both homeowners and the public. The proposed change would compromise this by allowing further encroachment, diminishing the openness that contributes to the unique appeal of this historic area. Number 3, ensure proper land use and future compliance. Zoning codes provide predictability and stability for homeowners and developers alike. Approving a deviation from a well-established standard without clear necessity risks setting a precedent that others may seek to exploit, weakening the enforceability of these regulations over time. If approved, similar requests could follow, ultimately altering the character of the neighborhood in ways that contradict the foundational principles of Coral Gables zoning and planning. Request for denial of the variance. Given the above considerations, I respectfully request that the Historic Preservation Board deny this variance request in order to uphold the original zoning principles that have protected the historical, architectural, and environmental integrity of our neighborhood. The setback requirement exists for valid, long-standing reasons, and granting this variance would not be in the best interest of the community. I appreciate your time and thoughtful consideration of this matter. Please feel free to contact me should you require further input or clarification. Sincerely, Jeanette Pena Hall.
Thank you. Is there any other letters of support or against?
No other letters of support or,
All right, well, thank you.
And what address?
this is the property owner at 4001 Santa Maria Street.
So just north
Okay, well,
Oh,
thank
so
you.
that's the,
Bird.
on Bird Road.
on Bird.
Are there any other discussions?
Yes, I have a couple issues. First of all, procedurally, is staff comfortable and is it appropriate for us to move forward in light of the fact that substantial new information and changes have been made to 10 of the detailed conditions? How do we deal with that?
I think the best way is because he's responding using the conditions and the conditions still state to work with staff on those details, if they're comfortable with continuing to work with us to make sure that we're on the same page. But I think that most of them, besides the one that we are recommending to to keep the open carport, that would be one that you all would have to take a stance on if you're not.
So if you could help us maybe and direct us, I'm thinking then it's conditions 2 and 3 that we need to look at in more detail, so that, questions. Which are the conditions that we should discuss more?
So definitely number 3 would be the carport to remain open per the original plan. So if you're going to make a different recommendation from the staff conditions, then you would state that in the motion.
And you're okay with 2? I don't recall.
And 2 is the original window configuration should be better integrated into the new design, and staff recommends that the applicant continue to study the window types on the west, south, and east elevations. So given the alternate elevations that he's provided today, I think we're in a step in the right direction, but we can continue to work with staff. So I think the condition still applies.
Ms. Janage, I believe in other cases, we've had conditions that were to work with staff on ultimate configuration and details. So perhaps these conditions could be incorporated into one broader window condition to work with staff as a suggestion, just that we've had previous.
pretty much the-
Yeah, but they
Okay.
don't all say work with staff, some of them just. say
Thank you, that's helpful. And then, in light of this letter, which is objecting to the setback variance, I know that you've already gone through in detail the reasoning for the variance, but could you address criteria number 1 again?
Can you also put the site plan up and where the variance would occur?
So could I address could I talk about the letter that was written? The original wall of the building on that side was at 7'4". We're not putting it where the original wall is. We're moving it to 9'8". I don't remember the exact amount, okay? So we are improving the setback situation.
Yeah, let us see so we can visualize
I'm
better
going to
what
put
you're
up the site plan,
proposing.
so that's a little easier.
I don't have it here. Huh?
I'm on it.
So if you look at the survey, the wall, that's the guiding wall of the house was at 7'4". We're moving it to 9+, simply because the combined site setbacks in Coral Gables have to be 20. And we're a couple of inches away from being 20, so that's why we're asking for that variance. That's it. But we're actually improving that neighbor's situation by moving the building away from
Can
her.
you show what you're doing on the plan?
So you see on the left side where the wall is, it's dashed in where the little hand is?
Yes.
That's 7'4". Is that what that says? If I recall correctly?
Where are you looking?
8'4", right? Okay, so that's the wall that we could go to because historically, the city attorney has said if there's an existing wall, you can continue that wall, right? We are not using that as our criteria, even though we could have gone there. We're actually in more to 9'10", okay? And that's just, the variance part is because the tippy corner of the right-hand side over there, that combined with the 9'10" that we have doesn't give you the total 20. So we're improving that neighbor situation. I don't understand why they're complaining.
I think she doesn't understand the whole idea.
But
Yeah.
just to clarify the
Hold
request.
on, one at a time.
Just to clarify the
Yes,
request,
yes,
it's my understanding that the variance request is to have a side setback of approximately 8 feet versus the required 9 feet 8 inches. So I don't know what the existing is, but the request is for 8 feet is my understanding. That was what was noticed and published, 8 feet.
Okay,
So the request doesn't it uses the existing 8-foot setback of that
Exactly.
service yard that you see here, and I'll circle it with my cursor.
Oh,
Yeah, you're keeping it at 8.
And he's using this same
Okay, I'm
line
sorry. We
to
had
bring
it
it
before
over.
pushed back, but now we're keeping it. That's right.
Right, and they're just using the same 8 feet to move, to do the addition along this end. So, and then the rear will be at 8 foot 2.5, and the previous condition was at 8 foot 1 1/4 because it was a shorter wall.
So
But
it
really
stays at,
the-
I'm sorry, it stays at the same place.
really, the variance is for the 20% of the lot. And in Coral Gables, a minimum side setback is 5 feet. So you could have a 5-foot setback on that side, and then have the other side have a 15-foot setback. So it's not, it's not,
Completely out of.
it isn't out of character of that neighborhood, and it also doesn't, as far as views and as far as it's the, I think it could have been worded that it would be the 20%, other than the actual side setback, because they're not asking for a variance from a 5-foot setback, which is the minimum side setback that's required in Coral Gables.
Well, I guess what I was asking also as a friendly question, because I'm always looking to make sure the record contains sufficient support, that when you state that special conditions and circumstances exist, I was thinking perhaps you were referring to the irregular shape of the lot.
So it would consider both. So I think there's the existing condition of that courtyard wall, but also, as you see, there's an irregular sized lot here with not your typical,
Mr. Garcia,
but with an angle.
So there's a great drawing in the set. On sheet A004, the diagram on the top right, I don't know if you can pull it up, but if we can pull it up on our screens here, where it very clearly shows setback annotations, and it shows the irregularity of the lot, which, because of the irregularity of the lot, it's 18 feet 7 inches and 10 feet 4 inches on one side, and on the other side, it is some version of 8 feet. So because of the irregularity of the lot, the 20% is a little bit difficult.
Skewed.
So this is a great diagram, and what is, might,
Is it this?
yeah, it's kind of that one, but it's got more information.
Okay, because I think it's on the architectural
Yeah,
set.
it's on
This
the
is
architectural set.
presentation.
So it shows the 5-foot setbacks, it shows all the information here, so if you want some clarity, this is a great diagram to take a look at. I did have one quick question, though. The service yard is, how tall is the wall for that service yard? Is it a 4-foot wall, an 8-foot wall? To the architect.
It's high. It covered
It's more than 6 feet.
much more than 6 feet.
Okay, and that's sort of the question, is the difference between a little 4-foot wall and a whole.
It had one of those drying poles there. You know what I'm talking about? So you don't see them.
The clothes hanging?
Closing.
So it's dashed in about the height of the addition.
So it's a full-sized wall.
Yes.
So Ms. Dene, on sheet A004 in the top right corner.
You're
This
absolutely
one.
right, that explains the special conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate having that in the record. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, the other option is you can reduce the living room side by 3 feet or then go 3 feet closer to them and you'd still be within the setback.
Well,
Yeah, that's what
the
I think
variance
this is the better
yeah.
design. I'm saying you have the right to go all the way 5 feet and you just take off, 3 feet from the other side. And it'd be worse for them. So I think this is the better alternative. But
Right.
I get their concern. I know, I understand what they're saying, but.
They're on the other side. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo everyone's, but like, I understand the difference between kind of a tall wall and a 2-story volume, right, which is the swap we're making. But at the same time, you are in compliance with a minimum setback on that side, clearly,
right.
right? You're exceeding that. And I concur that the irregularly shaped lot, if you take an average of the setback on that side, right, you're in compliance. Or if that building was shorter on that side, you'd also be in compliance probably.
The problem is that the only other solution for this house would have been to have taken that beautiful ceiling off and put the addition in the middle.
And that was gonna be my second point, right? Like, we're dealing, part of the justification for the variance is preservation of the existing architecture of the building, right? And by clustering the new addition on one side of the house, you're saying, okay, we're not touching the other side, and we're kind of living with what's there. So kind of the balance of that is asking for this variance, and I
That's
think
right.
it is justified.
Are there any other questions? Any other discussion? If not, we'll close the,
Well, I think that the big issue is the carport. We haven't discussed that yet.
Is
I don't-
public comment closed, Mr. Chair? Is the public comment closed or open?
well, the public comment has been closed, I think.
Got it, wasn't sure. Got it. So we're back to discussion among.
I
back
think
to
we're
discussion on the
discussion
board,
among
right.
board members, so I'd like to hear what my fellow board members are thinking about the carport, coming from a history of looking at similar situations.
I'm okay with the carport being enclosed with the recessed door. I mean, I don't know what the rest of you guys think, but,
I agree.
I mean, it can easily be removed in the future, you know, and you put a block wall back up and you create the condition. I mean, if we just designated I know we're not supposed to compare, but the house that, they moved the front door from the right side to the center. I mean, this is a minor ask compared to that one, so.
All right, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to have someone put together a motion. And I will wish them good luck.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what's happening to the carport for me? Staff.
Staff, okay.
So the carport right now, as proposed in I'm going to go with the one at the alternate, because I think you enlarged the door.
Yeah, sorry, Anna, before you start, can you pull up the alternate
I
elevation on
just made the
front?
door the size
Yeah,
of
how
that
about he-
opening that was there, which I think is a lot better.
But I think it would be helpful to maybe see
Yes.
Yeah.
the
Give me
new.
2
Yeah,
seconds.
thank you.
So my question is, you have the depth in the garage to move the door back in 3 feet, and you still can get a car in there?
Right,
Okay.
absolutely.
You can't turn around and look at it. You'll break your neck.
All right, zoomed in. So currently, there's an open carport here, and the proposal is to install a new garage door and have that garage door be set back within the opening so it differentiates it from the original garage to the left. There's also an opening along this elevation that I don't think we have a
We're going to
drawing
keep
of,
that
but he
opening
was
and
gonna
just put glass in
retain-
there.
Yeah, they were just going to retain the opening and put glass within that space.
We're thinking of using reeded glass so you don't see in, but have a nice mid-century effect.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the glass?
The glass on the side, we were thinking of having it reeded glass. You know which one that is?
It's like a
It's a
ribbed,
bit-
But,
like ribbed?
no, I know.
I'm asking him. I don't,
Oh, yeah.
I've not seen it.
But it's not clear.
Right, it's not clear. It would be clear but textured, pretty much is a better way.
Yeah, I mean, it can be cleared, but you don't want to walk into the front door and look to the left and look at the garage inside, right? So if it's clear, it's fine, but I think reeded glass would be a lot better for there, personally, just that one.
It's up to you guys.
I think you can work that out.
So there's an image in the designation report, the 1950s photo, right, that I think
The louvers, the vertical louvers?
there's vertical louvers in that opening, and then the wall that goes back, where you're using that approximately as your.
So we could put the louvers back and put glass behind them. That's fine.
So, Ms.
Mr. Garcia-Pons?
Yeah, Ms. Dene, I think looking for some thoughts on the board, I think some of us have expressed our thoughts on it. I think because of the age of the house and the year it was designed and the style in which it was designed, and the change from a standard width door to a door that expresses the actual width, looking at the elevation, it is my opinion that it does not negatively detract from the intent of the front elevation of the house. In fact, it might help a little bit with the horizontality because of the ribs on it, which is something that the second elevation or the alternate elevation does a better job at doing than the previous proposal does. And if acceptable to the architect, I think Mr. Silva's suggestion of bringing the louvers back with perhaps a clear glass inside would then recreate the existing conditions, give you the privacy that you want, and in essence, you get an enclosed garage that is.
That would be
more intuitive.
perfect.
And since I was told that we can't put glass on the front one, then I'll recede that one.
Well, I'm going to try.
I appreciate it. So that's my comment, Mr. Nay.
Ms. Alvarez?
No,
Question?
I don't have further comment.
Ms. Rolando?
No.
Ms. Ebert? Marlon, do you have any questions? Okay, or do we have any further questions of the applicant and their architect? Okay, if not, thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close all this, and we're going to move to a motion.
I'll make it.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia Pons.
A motion to approve the design proposal for additions and alterations to the resident and site work on the property located at 4005 Santa Maria Street, and approve with conditions noted above the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness with the comments made by the architect accepting comments 1 through 10 and the comment to continue to work with staff regarding the window openings, or excuse me, the windows and the garage, the windows of the garage door actually be louvered with glass pane inside. That is the motion.
May I ask for clarification? Are you moving
Number 3.
for approval subject to the conditions 1 through 10, but with the modification on 1 and 3 that the architect and applicant would work with staff?
So almost, I think I will remove number 3, which is definitely something off. Number 1 is to work with staff regarding the windows.
Regarding,
The windows, the part of the motion was to work with staff regarding the windows.
okay, but all the other,
1 through 10, I did
1
mention
through
that.
10?
Yeah,
Okay.
except for number 3, excluding number 3.
Right.
So on number 3, what are we doing? Or what
So-
are you proposing that we vote
The
on?
approval is to accept the drawings as provided today by the architect, which is an enclosure of the front, and then the side one be louvers with glazing on the inside per the image that Mr. Silva referenced earlier,
Okay,
but an enclosure.
okay, thank you.
I second it.
1950s. Ms. Spain, seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. Janay,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes,
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Ms. Ebert,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
No.
And there's a further motion.
Okay, on the motion, motion passes, passes 8-1.
And the second motion is a motion to approve a variance to allow the proposed addition to have a side setback of approximately 8 feet versus the required 9 feet 8 inches, where all single-family residential building setbacks shall be as per Section 2-100 Residential Districts Table, and shall meet the following requirements. Interior side, 20% of the total lot width, with a combination maximum of 20 feet, shall be equal on both sides. An existing contextual condition may allow an uneven distribution and determined by the Board of Architects, but in no case shall be a side setback of less than 5 feet.
Motion number 2 on this by Mr. Garcia Pons. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Spain? Call the motion, please.
Ms. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Ms. Janay,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
yes,
Ms. Ebert,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
No. Motion carries 8-1. Okay, Anything else on this item? Okay, we're finished then. Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on to the next item here, which is case file COASP 2024-009 revised. Application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1104 Malaga Avenue, a local historic landmark legally described as lots 5 through 11 inclusive, Block 12, Coral Gables Country Club, Section Part 1, Plat Book 8, page 106, Records, Miami-Dade County. Applicant requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and site work, which was granted approval with conditions on April 17, 2024. So we've seen this before, as most of you will recall, and the revision requests design approval with changes for the proposed additions.
Thank you. This is a site map location. You all should be pretty familiar with this project. Single-family home at 1104 Malaga was designed in 1925, permit number 710 in the city. Architect H. George Fink was the architect, and it's an excellent example of Mediterranean Revival style. It was designated as a landmark in October of 1978 and has come before you, I think, twice. Once for an overall master plan for the entire property in order to allow them to move forward with an ad valorem tax abatement, and the second was for an addition to the rear. So this proposal requests modifications to your previous approval. It's a little bit complicated, and the staff report is not quite the same format that we kind of use for everything. So would you all like the architect to make his presentation, telling you what the changes were, or would you like us to go through the staff report first? I think you're nodding.
I think the architect would be fine.
Okay.
Walk us through that, and then we can ask any
Go ahead.
questions. Okay, please state your name, swear yourself in. I don't think
Nelson
either
De
one of
Leon.
you were here. You need to swear them in, I believe.
Nelson De Leon, Locus Architecture.
Raise your right hand, please.
Five, oh,
Both of you, are you going to speak?
Yeah, I swore.
Thank you. Okay.
I do. All right, starting again. Nelson De Leon.
Nelson, make
Locus
sure you get up
Architecture.
really close to this.
Nelson De Leon, Locus Architecture.
And through
As you
the
can
chair-
see, I've yet to recover from my voice from 2 months ago.
This
It's
is why
been
you
a
have-
struggle.
That's why you have to be very close.
Through the chair, Mr. Dillon, I'm sure you're going to do this, but could you be very clear to highlight the changes between the last approval and this one when you do them? As you
Yes.
go through the presentation?
Yeah. So we've set up the presentation to show the previous drawing you approved, followed by the proposed. So we can toggle back and forth with any image that you want to see, what it looked like before and what we're proposing now. I'll skim through these since these were, I think you're all pretty aware of what the home looks like, and we'll get to the crux of the matter. So while I'm flipping through to the first sheets, the reason for the changes have come from the owners as they experienced the house, especially during the first part of the remodeling. And one of the things they discovered was that the original design screen enclosed porch, which was rather small, was the only covered outdoor area that they had on the rear part of the yard. And as you can see from the site, the rear part of the yard is almost half an acre with oak trees and vegetation. And that looks toward the Biltmore Hotel. So they realized this is where we really want to spend a lot of our time, and we're going to be in the sun the whole time. So that's what generated the largest part of the change, which is the one-story screen enclosure. Let me go back. So these are the street views, the bottom image being the street view along Cordova. I'm sorry, that is the second view. So before we had a full fence on the side street elevation with just a small screen enclosure on the left bottom side. And during the
Following
board
this along.
presentation, we discussed lowering the height of the wall along the front and the side of the house all the way up to about the middle of the house. So the front wall and the side wall along Cordova were reduced to about 30 inches. At this is not the best image to see this, but this gives you the overall view of the side street. This was the original entry gate design, and then the lowered gate design that came subsequent to your suggestions. Internally, we have a few changes. I'm going to skim through those because the internal changes that have occurred do not impact on the ground floor, the exterior. On the second floor, they do have an impact where some of the original windows are now proposed as doors to access that roof terrace. So this was our original first floor. On the upper middle part and to the left was that one-story, the great room, family room that looked out toward the rear with a small screened enclosed area that was the only outdoor area proposed at the time. The reimagined proposal now has a large covered outdoor screened area, the second floor of that being a rooftop terrace. This was the original second floor as approved, and now the proposed second floor, which has the rooftop deck of the terrace usable. So the doors that we had, or rather the windows that we had from the master bedroom now become doors. The existing bedrooms that were facing west, the windows there now are proposed to be doors so that all three of those bedrooms have access to the new rooftop terrace. The demolition roof plan has no change. The roof plan as originally proposed and the new roof plan. Here, there's a small change to the roof plan on the upper right. The master bath was extended to align with the proposed second floor addition. The only change here is the entry door. So initially we had on this scheme, the modified main entrance, which is that dark dash line you see in the upper image, was reimagined as an arched entryway, double doors.
Nelson, sorry, just to interrupt you a second, because I can't really read those images. So I'm looking, if I follow along on the architecture plans, V1 that was uploaded, that's what you're showing now?
D1?
V1, it's like a revision date of 1/27/25, revision 3.
Okay.
If we're looking at these drawings, we can see what you're showing there.
There's one that says previous submittal, one set of drawings?
No, I'm not looking at previous, I'm looking at the current.
Right, so the next,
It's the other full
Yes.
set, okay. Sorry, I can't see those drawings.
Okay. I'm struggling too with what's on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's like a display issue. I don't think it's a.
So I think these images are going to better represent what some of the proposed modifications are. So the entry door, which was previously approved as a double door, arched.
Nelson, what was the original front door? Was it a double?
The
was it a
original
double
front
leaf?
door, I actually have earlier on.
Yes.
I actually have the original drawings. The original was a double door, and based on the report photos that Kara put together, it actually appears to be lower in height than the door that we have.
What is the
So
ghosting?
we weren't
They've
sure
taken apart
when we.
everything already, you know, I mean, most of us walk by or go by the Biltmore, go to church and see the house. What does the ghost mark show?
if you look on page 6 of the staff report, there's an image of the original drawing. If you look on page 6 of the staff report, there's an image of the original drawing of that door versus what was proposed before versus what's proposed now.
Oh, there you go.
So this is what was
Here.
It was a single arched French door.
'Cause the original door was actually towards the
The
east,
original door
right?
was
actually towards the
was a
east.
double door. It was an arched opening with a double door.
It was the same height as
No, the original door to that house was
The
on the
original entry
east.
was under the loggia.
The loggia.
That was changed.
Yeah.
So in the previous approval, we took that square opening, made it an arch again, and reintroduced the double doors.
And they're going to bring it down?
In the process of looking at doors, the owner decided that a single arch door was more to their liking, so the new proposed entry is a single, fully arched door within the larger arched opening of our previous set of double doors. We maintained that line because I wasn't 100% sure if that was the original opening or not, even though we were modifying it from square. So you see actually a double arch, you see a larger arch, and then the door, the new door is inset back 2 inches so that that larger arch is reflected.
I get it.
It's pretty hard to see. I mean, it almost looks like there's hoods on top.
So originally, that was not the front entry to the house, right? The front entry was under the loggia. This was a door leading to like a side garden, like a patio. So all of the windows were in line. The window were all in line. It wasn't meant to be a monumental entry door as is now.
And the side windows were full height?
The windows, as you see on the front elevation, are all the original openings.
Okay, so because these look like they're going all the way down.
There was a
over here
wall.
on the plan.
Mr. Maxwell, there was a wall enclosing that patio. So what you're seeing is the truncated, the windows and the wall. So they didn't go all the way to the floor.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. It's pretty difficult to see.
So this
Sorry, Nelson,
was,
since we're interrupting, what's the width of the front door now that you're proposing?
excuse me,
What's the proposed width of the front door as you're proposing now?
39 inches wide, 9 feet high. So this was the previously approved, and it shows the small screen enclosed terrace off of the new 2-story wing. And this is the proposed full-length screen enclosed terrace with the rooftop terrace. So this has been a painful process to get to here, and I'll explain to you why. So in the process of developing the design with the owners, we initially started with a design that had full arches. In reviewing it with staff felt that maybe that was too much in keeping with the style of the original fully arched loggia window, openings rather. So we went to a square opening, went to the Board of Architects and presented square openings. The Board of Architects said, why don't you have fully arched openings? So we did not get an approval at the Board of Architects and came back with fully arched openings that staff still was not in favor of. So in the process of trying to hit a middle point between square and fully arched, I proposed a compound arch, which is a flattened arch with 2 smaller arches on the side, so that we weren't replicating the loggia, which I'll toggle back a moment so you can see what the loggia looks like. So there on the bottom left, you see the open-air loggia and the arched openings that exist there. So as we proposed these, we felt initially that the arched openings were maybe more in keeping with the design, but trying to hit that middle ground, we have a compound arch now. The second floor, the upper image, which was the original existing, had a bank of 3 windows and for 1 bedroom, and then 1 window on the corner bedroom. So our proposal here was to take that corner window and make it a door to access the terrace. And then the owners liked the idea of having the current 3 windows and creating, rather than 3 windows and 1 door, having double doors to access the terrace. So from the Cordova side, the project as approved, and then the proposed new screen-enclosed terrace that has a decorative chimney element on the inside, and that's represented on the outside as a fireplace. This was another element that initially we were trying to downplay the fireplace, but the board thought that it'd be much more in keeping with sort of some of the eclectic elements of the house if we express the chimney on the exterior. The two flanking side openings are based on the home's loggias, rectangular openings that have a tile surround with a spindle element. So we made them larger, removed the spindle element, but we really like the idea of the tile surround, so we kept that as an element, partly to keep that side of the screen enclosure more open. So I'll just go back one more time so you can see what was previously approved. On the bottom left was the one-story screen enclosure. And now the proposed full-length screen enclosure. So the house is interesting because there's a lot of internal movement. The loggia on the right, you can see, is very low. That's at the lowest point of the house. And it's at the same elevation as the family room, or great room, really. From the great room, you step up 1.5 feet to the dining room and the rest of the house. And then from there, it's a 14-foot height to the next level. So we go from a very low-scaled entry loggia that relates perfectly to the great room because the great room's at the same elevation, and then the house continues to grow. So when we designed the covered screen enclosure, now all of a sudden we're all the way up to 14 feet because that's where our second floor is, so you can access that to the rooftop terrace. And the rooftop terrace, we pushed down 6 inches from that level. So scale-wise, it scales well with the dining room element, which is the pop-out bay window in the middle of the house. But when you look at the loggia at the front, the loggia is so low that, you know, I could see why staff initially may have had reservations with this. Where this scales nicely with the back of the house, it's only that small element at the front, that loggia, that when you do the wraparound, that it doesn't quite scale with it. So we had arched openings flanking either side of the chimney, but because of that whole scale transition, we decided, well, let's not have them there. Let's just have a smaller, reduced opening, and that then reduces greatly the comparison of those small arches at the entry loggia with the proposed ones that are now at the rear.
You got
On the-
everything there?
Excuse
Is there
me?
more?
This last one is rather small here.
Thank
I'll
you.
just, well, it was small for us, it's not small for staff. So we have on the original approval, the upper image was the house as it existed that had a very steep run rise to get to the second floor guest house. That was removed, and now the design that the owners would prefer is to extend the terrace that's on the second floor guest and bring it closer to the front edge of the garage. So on the exterior, the three major changes were the front door going from a double to a single arched. The largest of the changes being going from the small screen enclosure to a screen enclosure that went almost end to end, and then the little pop out here at the garage side.
Okay, does that conclude the presentation, Nelson?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this? Hearing none? Okay. Do we have any public comments?
No, none were received, and there's no one on Zoom that's asking to
Thank
speak.
you. We're going to close the public hearing now. So we'll come back to you if we have any questions. Thank you. If we could have the lights back up if they're needed, or if you guys still want to see the plans as they are. please say. Ms. Rolando?
I can't hear you.
I can't hear either, but
I have a question about that, the chimney. Is it functional?
It's functional aesthetically.
Okay, so
There you
we're
go.
not worrying about smoke
No,
spewing
no.
onto the, okay.
No.
no, the smoking room's the new screen porch, right?
Yes.
I don't know that.
Can we have some questions down here? Any questions, observations, discussion? Mr. Silva?
It may be helpful now if, since we've heard from Nelson, if staff takes us through
Yes.
their take on the changes, and, because I think the bulk of them you're not objecting to. I think there's just one or two
Yeah.
we need to look at.
Yeah, there are a few. If you want to bring the PowerPoint back up, and then Nelson, if you can get to where I'm talking about. So the first one, and probably the most important and impactful to us, is the screen terrace at the rear. Understanding
Kara,
that-
can you think?
Absolutely. Understanding the need and the desire for the screen terrace. It's not the size of it. It kind of mimics the shape of the existing uncovered terrace that's there now. It was the arches and the twisted columns, and you're introducing a new arch typology to the house that doesn't really exist anywhere else. We had initially, as the architect had stated, suggested squared openings, maybe simplifying the columns or eliminating them altogether, and Board of Architects rejected our design, our proposal. The issue initially was that those columns wrapped the side elevation. So when you looked at the street side elevation, you could see these very high, fully rounded arches, and then the small loggia arches almost next to it. They looked very out of scale, and so this was, as the architect said, his solution was to just kind of make a happy middle, which still, in my opinion, feels wrong to the house. I mean, I understand why, and I'm very fond of you, but it's just, I don't know. I find it difficult.
So that's item number one, right?
That's
Let's
number
can-
one.
So through the chair, if we can address them individually, because Nelson went through the whole thing, and it's hard to do all at once.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Nelson, we're gonna probably instruct the staff after this to say any kind of revisions on this. They're gonna be very specific and not show us all the extra stuff. So it's very, very clear to see what's going on. So bear with us, okay?
So,
Please.
so the change is creating a new patio with the new enclosure on the ground floor, with the 4 openings towards the back, and then the side with the chimney and the 2 openings. I understand the living there and realizing that the view from that towards the south is an incredible one, and excuse me, I'm not trying to address you. So the owner's interest in utilizing more of that particular space, because it's a beautiful part of it. There was a rhythm that was there before that now has a new rhythm with the openings and the doors and the railings that don't quite work together. Understandable, because they're different. I'm going to address the one issue that I have a concern about is I agree with staff on this one that I love the attempt at the composite arch, but I still don't think it's appropriate. I think it's probably my recommendation for my board members for discussion would be to keep it horizontal, with all due respect to my friends in the Board of Architects. And that's not a question for you guys, that's a board conversation. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this one.
Just to be clear, Cesar, you're suggesting a flat arch at the elevation of the top of those screen doors?
Yes, where it says screen is removal. Remove that composite arch.
I would be comfortable with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I get why the Board of Architects wanted the arches, but I think for a historic home, it makes more sense to have them be squared off.
on these things? I have no comment.
Okay.
So in a case like this, who wins? I mean.
We do, we always win.
Oh, we do, okay.
Yeah, Nelson, so if you ever get into trouble with the Board of Architects, come here.
It's all about the owners, not about me.
So that's
As far
my
as the
only,
Board of Architects and us, we take precedence.
that's my only comment on that addition. I don't know if anybody else has any additional comments on that addition.
Oh, just,
Mr. Silva, then
Madam Chair, yeah.
I've got one too.
so just, I agree, I think it should be flat. I think it's part of the definition of things we look at, right? Easily identifiable. I think introducing that composite arch kind of muddies the water a little bit.
I would take it.
And I think it's cleaner to just have a flat arch. I think
These little corner things, so
I agree.
I'd like to make a comment also. Nelson, it's really good. On the second floor balcony, right above the screen porch, you've got this sort of new form that's introduced for the balusters. I'm thinking the same thing, that it's something to simplify that, would probably look a little more in keeping with what we have here. It introduces a whole new vocabulary, of forms to that. So while I see what you're trying to do, would there be a way to simplify that a little bit to go along more with what's going on the first floor?
Yeah, it could definitely be simplified. That shape actually occurs in several parts of the house where rather than the wall coming straight down, they had a design to the wall. So we were just giving a little nod to that without actually copying.
Yeah, I see
some
that
of
in the
those.
front, yeah, but I think in the back, it's probably, it just sort of,
I would say as far as the terrace columns go, if you're going to end up going with a flat arch, I would take away the columns. I would just make them plain. And then they don't offend anything, and the rest of the house can be more ornate.
Would you be okay with a decorative tile surround around the new flat
Yes.
door?
So that, I think the comment now is if you lose the compound arch screen and if you sort of straighten out the railing, you'll have the sort of verticality between the two. And if you rethink the columns between them, I think it gives you an opportunity to rethink that the back as an element with 4 vertical pieces, and a surround or some sort of other element would be appropriate that I think you'd be able to work with staff to solve. But I think the editing out of those 3 things will free you up to make other decisions, whether it be a railing on the top. There's many things that you could possibly do that I'm sure you'll do a great job at.
May I?
Please state your name.
My name is Nikki Sohn, owner of this property. So so the hybrid approach of the compound arch doesn't seem to be favored. And there's 2 kind of extremes. One is, on one end is the square shape, but what if on the other side it was exactly replicating the arch shape from the front of the house? Because if you look at the I guess the balusters, we were taking elements from the front of the house as well. So.
Do you mean the east elevation or the same elevation?
From the north view? Yeah, okay, so from the ground floor, yeah.
Nelson, what's the comment?
Yeah,
is this on A05?
I think what he's referring to is the full arched,
So replace the compound arch with the full arch.
which is that's what the board had recommended. And then staff was not in favor of the full arch, so then that's where we tried a middle ground that made nobody happy.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit more to the board meeting they were unanimous in encouraging us to go for the arches.
I could go for an arch.
So I think what's the proportion of the full arch on the front, you have the wall that sits on top of it, then you have the roof that sits on top, so the arches are appropriately weighted to hold up these things. The full arch on the back, I think, might be too tall, running into the bottom of the porch or the second floor patio. And I think it might necessitate the weight of having a solid second floor balcony versus having the openings, because it would be right up against the edge. The top of the arch would be right at the bottom of the floor. So I think it would necessitate a redesign of that back element. If the intent is to keep the balcony open with railings, I think having the full arch would be problematic.
A solid, I guess, balcony wall would be welcome. And they could have the same, or no, maybe similar perforations to the balcony that's, I think, shown, the protruding from like the, yeah.
We had this really great question as we're making some decisions, some pretty big decisions at this point. There's one thing that I think is super helpful, and the reason I was asking about the east elevation is the side elevation, the one that has the other arches that are full arches. By not doing it on that side, I think you might have some license to be able to do it on the back, right? Because the elevation doesn't share those arches. I think it's possible. I can see it if it's an enclosed second floor balcony, and then it will be properly weighted with the full arches, the full spring arches. But that's a pretty big change that I don't know if I can see today. Again, this is just one board member talking. This is not the board.
Mr. Silva?
I get what you're saying, Caesar, but I still think having a more transparent railing and the flat arch is, I think, a better solution.
It's one or the other. You can't do both. I don't think you can do both.
You can't do both.
Yeah, when the board members were describing that first option with the straight top opening, to call it something, and then the piers on the parapet that followed kind of that rhythm, I think
We can't hear you.
I think that's appropriate, what was being described.
Which one,
Can
Anna?
you repeat what you
Anna,
said?
what's appropriate?
Yeah.
Please go back, because we didn't hear
This-
you.
The straight top openings,
Okay.
for
Thank
lack
you.
of a better description, and the piers that create the solids versus the railings on the upper parapet. I think that would be an appropriate solution.
Peggy?
The non-architect in the group thinks it's too busy.
We have the lawyers over here. Marlon? Yeah. Marlon?
I agree that it's just, there's too much going on. You know,
Yeah, but it's a 1920s house, and there was everything going on in a 20s house, and more than everything.
Yeah. I think it's detracting from the authenticity of the original house.
Closer, please.
Sorry, I'm guilty.
I'm guilty too.
I think, one, it's too busy, and it detracts from the architecture and the authenticity of the original structure and architecture. So I have no problem with the eliminating the arches and either a solid balcony wall or a very simplified railing.
Marlon, you had a question?
I do have something to say. I think also maybe eliminating those columns. I mean, just kind of, it's just such a beautiful home.
Oh.
I don't think it needs all the gingerbread.
Okay, we're gonna put this one on abeyance, and we're gonna go to the next point. Okay, so we'll consider that. And I think the next point really is the front door.
No, actually,
Yes.
I'm going to go down the list if that's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, that was number one.
I'm going to go down the list in the staff report, just so that it keeps it kind
Okay,
of.
what's,
So the next one is on the same elevation. It's the resizing of the windows on the second floor.
okay, so
When-
let's go to that then.
So when we had talked
you.
about the proposal with the architect, we had talked about when we normally approve for windows to be made into doors, it just basically brings down the opening. And so you maintain it, so if in the future you need to fill it back up and put a window back, you can do that. Which they've done on one of the three,
Yes,
one or two of the three openings.
up here.
So there's one window that's being resized.
The one on the right is being resized to
The
be
one-
the
one on
same
the-
size?
To be a door. The one on
The
the
one
right
on
is.
the left?
No, other way. Go the other way. At the balcony. Yeah, so the window, if you're looking at this, the door now on the right-hand side, it was a window. The window in the middle was longer, and the door was, on the left, was originally a triple opening.
I think
So,
Kara, it would be clearer to the rest of the board if you would please put up A-05.1. I think that really shows it very much better. Thank you. Yeah, pull it down a little bit so you can look at the original. Whoops, we shrunk it. We shrunk the kids.
78 is the one that's on, yeah.
There you go. We're back up A-051. There you are. Okay, now you can point them out up here in the top and then show how they are on the bottom, if you would, please.
Window to a door.
Okay, so you see that the window there, ladies and gentlemen, because she doesn't, why don't you pick up your mic if you would? And then I think that might help.
I'll narrate. So there's a window on the top that is now going to be a door on the right-hand side.
Okay.
The window in the middle is kind of the same. And then the one on the right was triple windows, and now it's a double door.
Comes
These
two
are all
doors.
changes from windows to doors because there's a new second floor patio. So they want to be able to access the patio from those rooms.
And you'll see that
Is
in,
the window on the right the same, when it's converted to a door, the same size, or is it wider?
It looks like it is the same size. The demolition looks like it's just extruding it south or
It's just
down.
it's the same width going
Correct.
down.
and Peggy, you may remember that on the garage, they've relocated the stairs, so it's really quite a much more elaborate, redone.
Thank you.
So
Please, Mr. Garcia Pons.
So through this one, again, these are just my comments, is because of the addition of a second floor patio, the idea of accessing it is probably incredibly appropriate. The single window to the door on the right, I think, is an easy one because the proportion is the same. The triple window to the double door, I think depending on what that room design could be like, I think that could be configured in a number of ways. I do appreciate and recognize that it probably should be a door. I think part of the previous conversation with regards to the proportion and the spacing and alignment of the arches and railings not really coinciding with either the triple windows or the double door is something that may be able to be looked at by the architect in some way.
Caesar, do you mean getting him to line up, getting him to be centered?
I think there's an opportunity, depending on what in the end happens. I think with having the railings, of having the 4 openings, it sort of gives you that 4. If you have a solid single horizontal line, it doesn't matter. So I think it's really that little piece of elevation could be reconsidered in a way, depending on where we go with the loggia, might help inform what we do with the wall in the back. Although again, I completely agree with making them into doors. It's just a matter of exactly how, in my opinion.
Should I move on?
Everybody clear with the plans and see what's going on?
With that second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item?
So on this elevation, you'll see in the bottom corner, the proposal is that,
What page number is that?
5.3.
5.3? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So at that elevation, there was an original pair of stairs that led to the guest or the servants' quarters over the garage structure. At the time when we approved the removal of those stairs, there was so little happening on this property in terms of alterations that we were okay with it because they were just sort of truncating that landing at the landing, removing the stairs and then putting a wall up to sort of leave the piece there, but remove the stairs. By extending it further to the corner, you now sort of lose what that once was and the opportunity to ever put it back. So we had relayed to the architect before that we were not comfortable with that modification, and they wanted to bring it forward anyway.
So, sorry, through the chair, Kara, so the demolition of that front stair we approved the last time? And turning around to the back to where it is now, or?
Yes, and then they added a stair to the rear facade.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I recall that we approved that
So
last
where
time.
was, I'm sorry, the stair was removed and replaced at the last time, not this time?
This was removed,
Mhm.
and then they added a stair at the rear right here.
And that was part of the last approval? Okay, so now it's, because of all the other changes, should
Correct,
it?
now it's extending that sort of second floor, what's now a balcony, which was originally the landing. It's extending it to the northeast corner of the home.
Which we can see on
Northwest.
sheet 5.1, which is a rear elevation showing that it's turned around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the bottom.
If I may add one, or
Please.
you're discussing. So that particular staircase was incredibly steep, and the stairs weren't even. It was a safety hazard. So if it ever had to be brought back in the original capacity, it just wouldn't be safe. And I don't even know how it could be done. It would have to like extend into the driveway, just so like, even I wouldn't fall down.
Yeah, no, we approved the stair and all that last time, so I mean,
Yeah,
that's not really what's in question. I think we're still talking about the windows and the sizing, so.
Oh, okay.
No, no.
Talking about the stairs.
I mean, the stairs, I'm sorry.
Staff
yeah.
is saying that because of the changes that are now being proposed, that they do not recommend that the chair be switched, the stairs be
No.
Okay,
The
and
stairs
please
are gone. Like the stairs are, it's underway.
Extending
So
the
what they're
balcony.
doing is they're extending basically what was the landing and now the balcony to the corner.
Understood, right.
So it's not, I'm not objecting to the removal of the stairs anymore, because that's a done deal. It's more of the extension now of that landing to the corner.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, thank you.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And the elevation. So sorry, through the chair, so again, on sheet 5.3, previously on the top drawing where it says demo, which is the stair, the remaining area, the existing to remain, was the only porch area. So the extension would be to capture the next window.
Correct.
So
Oh, I
it's
see.
just a matter of
It's the
from one
enlargement of
rectangle
it.
to a larger one. Thank you, that was not clear to me. Yeah, me
Much too
too.
long to figure out.
And then, a question, may I ask a question to the architect or this? So the extension of that patio would be to capture more area on that patio? Because it's still not a door, right? The window on the left is still a window?
Correct, it's a window, it's just the doors in the center of that upstairs terrace.
And if the board were to agree with staff and only keep the formerly existing rectangle where all the panels are, what would be the change that would need to be made on your end? Moving the electric meters back to the wall?
Well, at our end, it would be erasing the lines on this drawing, because there's nothing built there.
But you had an
So
intent.
part of it was to pick up a little bit more storage at the garage, right? And then because there's a little terrace at the guest, it just natural to just continue the terrace at the second floor. And we held back the extension. We didn't go to the face of the garage. We held it back 8 inches. You could see there the double line.
So on page 3.0, the floor plan of the garage shows a new storage area from the garage that would be in that particular space.
Correct.
Mr. Silva?
Sure. So on this one, I think I agree with staff. I think that the holding that line of the original landing, I think makes sense. I understand why we had to remove the stairs. I'm fine with obviously putting them where they're going. But I think in the interest of trying to keep as much as we can of the original kind of massing, right? Like, I think we should hold that balcony line where it was on this one. But that's just my opinion.
And I agree with staff and Mr. Silva.
Shall I continue? Okay. The third is the changes to the landing at the landing. Hang on, let me go to the floor plan. It's going to be easier. Sorry, it's slow.
Cara, what item of your conditions are you on?
It's not. It's walking you through the staff report observations. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Is this one of the points, though, on the list that you gave?
Yes.
Yes.
What sheet are you on?
I'm on 2.2. So there's a change in the landing at the north facade to the east of the garage. And so it appears that there was a landing with steps, and now it's just a simple step. So there's a change of elevation somewhere that's happening inside the house, and I couldn't figure out where it was happening.
So it's happening.
But we're fine with the revision. I just don't understand.
From the garage, right?
So initially, the room between the garage and the house was a mudroom laundry, and we entered at the back side. So we had our first step there, then we entered steps up to the laundry, and then we were even with the house. But that room now has got a different purpose, so then the opening to the house from the garage came all the way to the front wall. Next to the front wall is the garage doors. So we couldn't add steps there, so we had to lower everything at that part of the house, and then from there, step up to the house, into the main house and into that new storage room.
Yeah.
So the steps became internal.
Got it. We're fine. We're fine with it. Okay, so same floor plan. The addition of steps to the south side of the existing landing within the carport, it's an original feature. They're making it symmetrical and adding a rear set of steps to that landing. We are fine with it. There's a note that talks about the existing railing to be repaired, refinished, although the portion flanking the new steps doesn't exist. So at the time when this comes for permitting or whatever, we need details on what that new railing is going to look like and how it's going to be incorporated into the existing railing. That's it. The resizing of the entry door at the north facade, as I showed you guys previously, it was originally a single arched opening with a full arch. The one that's there now is a squared off door. They were initially proposing a large double, fully arched, fully rounded arched door. And with this proposal, they're proposing a single door with, again, a compressed arch. And it was not so much the single door, I'm fine with that because it's closer to what was original. It's the compressed arch that is, again, introducing something that was never there.
It's a full arch. What's happening is, since it's a double arch, the door itself is a full arch within a full arch. But I think what's happening as a visual is that the different size arches maybe are making it look different. What I'd like to do now, since we're just using a single door, is just eliminate the remnants of the larger opening
Yeah,
and just make it
Just
one
fill it
single
in.
door with an arch.
which is actually closer to
Because
what
we-
it was originally.
Right, since I wasn't 100% sure what the size of that original arched opening was, while the original drawings show it much lower and in line with the windows, the original drawings also show the top of those windows about 2 feet lower than this drawing. So I'm not sure if in the process of construction, they were raised to this elevation, because this elevation makes sense both from the outside and from the interior foyer. So I think the original arch was larger than what the historical drawings show, but I don't know exactly how wide it was. So I assumed that the previous person or owners who made it a square top kept the original width of the original arch and just raised it to a square top. So I was keeping that width, but as an arch with another arch within it, step back. And maybe that's why it looks like it's flattened.
Okay, so,
I have a-
if-
oh, go
sorry,
ahead. Go-
if at some point, if this gets approved, can you draw it without all the stuff around it, just so we can see what it looks like?
Right, since it's a construction drawing, it shows
Yeah.
where concrete is being added in gray.
Mine is minor, just curiosity. The front door, how come you guys are going with an in-swing instead of an outswing? Is there a reason for that, or just preference, or?
Preference is one reason. It's also still a large door.
Please speak into the microphone.
Oh, preference is part of the reason. It's also functionally a very large door to kind of like, I don't know, lean out and.
Got it.
So.
That's fine, I just wanted to know if it was like a preference or something.
Yeah.
Because usually they swing out, but.
It's how doors are around most of the world.
The what?
Welcome, come in.
Yeah,
But because of our hurricane
yeah,
code,
exactly.
Right.
Our-
there's
our
few
doors swing out.
manufacturers that can build an in-swing door.
They were always in, okay.
So I think, well, in-swing, outswing, I thought it was a fire code that you had to do it, but that's not what we're doing today, is so the dark line that is the outline of the previous, is that known or is that your guess? So it was a double door per the drawing. It looked like it was a double door that was maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. So that was 2.5-foot leaves, which is appropriate for a patio, but maybe not for a front door. You said it was 9 feet tall?
Yes.
So in my opinion, it just looks a little tall. It looks, I think, because of the relationship of the existing windows, it probably might fit into this version of the arch if it were an 8-foot tall door, and then it would sort of have the right opening around, so it doesn't look like it's touching it in the wrong way. Even if you do keep the frame, it would be the proper interior door to the proper exterior arch with that little relief, if we choose to keep the relief or not. But it just seems proportionally to be off, particularly with the existing crest above. I think, again, there's a weight that seems to be missing.
This is one that I would actually,
I actually agree with you, because I didn't understand that you were insetting an arch, like there's a recess. And so I agree with you that if that surround doesn't continue around the whole door, then it becomes a little strange. You need to eliminate it or do the arch. I think that makes sense.
and I would try and keep the 9 feet. The reason is, this is really an old world, elegant mansion foyer. You come into this space and it's the size of most living rooms. So it needs a door that sort of commands the entrance. And I think going to an 8-foot door would be an injustice in this particular case.
Well, would you like to put back a couple of leaf doors?
Right, I think it's a proportional issue, is if you want to go higher, it needs to be wider.
You know, I mean, a really grand front door can open up like this, like 2 welcoming arms. At this point, you know, with the height of it, Nelson, it really looks much more like a Palladian arch rather than anything that would be much more Mediterranean. I haven't been by the house lately. I mean, I walk by it to go to church. Have they gotten in any of the, on the demolition on the interior there for that front? Have they begun to pull stuff apart? Because you'll be able to see stuff on the ghosting. The ghost marks on the walls, on the inside, and where you take out the door and things like that. That'll really guide you. May not give you the proper height, but you'll be able to see where it originally was once you take it out. So, and the same with the windows. I think where we're all leaning here is going back to more of that, what was originally drawn, and maybe figuring out, and pushing down the front door and looking at that a little bit differently so that it looks more like the original and has the same dimension.
And I think from the owner's perspective, since there were no double in-swing doors that met, that had an NOA, they were able to find a single door. And since they wanted to have an in-swing door, the idea from their end was, well, let's just create one single arch door.
I think that could be fine, provided, you bring it down and it begins to have that, it begins to mimic the original much more.
Nelson,
Okay,
how
even
tall,
with a single leaf door.
how tall is the proposed door?
9 feet, 9 feet.
Yeah.
Right, standard door is 6'8", a larger door is 8, this would be a custom door at 9.
Yeah. And you really wouldn't have seen a large 9-foot door, originally in the 1920s. Just wouldn't have been there. Material was much smaller, unless it was a grand door like at the church or something.
What's the ceiling height in the space?
The ceiling height in that space is probably 12 and a half feet, 13 feet.
It's not fully out of proportion with the space on the interior.
No, that's what I was alluding to, is that the space inside is quite tall. And when you step down into the family room is 15 feet.
Sure, but you've also got one other option here, or one other advantage. You have the advantage of doing one of the most complete, most comprehensive restorations of a front facade in this city. So it gives you can have a really good reputation to live up to by doing that. You've created a beautiful back, and it's really very well done, Nelson. I mean, I appreciate how you've gone through this and how you're respecting it and what it is that you're using as the materials, particularly like, the screening, the concrete screening and everything. Very good. So,
Well, to be
Love
fair
to-
to
love
my
to see
client
it.
who's here, if you don't have a client who loves the home and wants to restore it, we start off right off the bat as an architect, behind the 8 ball. So
well, we
we're
were fortunate enough
in this
we were
case that we have
fortunate
someone
enough
who
meet
wants to
him,
restore the home.
a year and a half ago and appreciated all of his, not only candor, but desires. And hopefully we've all tried to fulfill those as well.
I
Would
think
you
if
all
you're,
be
if you're
okay?
going to keep this at 9 feet, you should just eliminate the attempt to show the surround and just make it a 9-foot door.
Yes.
I mean, and then that being close to that goes away. So then you have a 9-foot in-swinging door, which I love. I really miss the in-swinging door that I had on my old historic home.
I miss them too.
It's a much more elegant way to enter, and so I get that. But I wouldn't bother with trying to have some kind of memory or whatever it is.
No, I agree, but made you do an 8'6" door and bring it down just slightly so it's not as tall, and then eliminate the surround? I mean, is that a compromise the board would be acceptable?
8'6" or something, yeah.
We're just sort of talking things through. I think that comes with the next stop is
Yeah, it just-
where we
In
end up
another
with
hour,
the.
we'll have
I mean, the door that's was in place, well, it's probably not there anymore, but was shown as the proposed was a bad. I mean, it's too close to the windows on the sides. It's just the wrong proportions entirely. So I appreciate them trying to get back to something that's closer to the intent. I do believe that that inset, because we don't actually know that it's not
It's not
needed.
like it's referring to something that was,
Yeah, we don't
that we
know.
know was historic, so I would just get rid of it.
We don't know, maybe now, but it's easy, but we can find out, so. And, okay, what's the next item here?
Anyway, I'm going to leave that one up to you guys at the moment.
the extension of the proposed master bathroom at the second floor. This occurs wholly in the new addition, has no impact on the historic home. It makes total sense. We're fine with that. And then to infill an existing door at the rear of the south facade. They're being proposed to kind of change an existing window and door. And just as previously noted, we would just want a recess where it's being removed. When you put a block in, put a recess to have a memory of the opening, we're fine. And then interior changes don't affect the exterior, and they actually make a lot of sense. So.
Okay, so let's sum up what we've got. We've got 3 issues, we have four issues that we need to vote on. If we can summarize
Speak into the
them, I
mic,
think-
please.
We have 4 issues. We have 4 issues that we have to vote on. So if we can summarize those, I think that would really help. And do we need to take a vote? Can we consolidate them?
So just to be clear, there are no 4 separate votes to be taken. There should just be
Yeah.
one vote on the COA. You shouldn't poll each other or take straw votes on individual issues. Somebody can make a comprehensive motion. There may be friendly amendments to it, but we can't take separate votes on each discrete topic that was raised in the item. What's being voted on is the application as a whole. And I understand that may lead to a lot of discussion, but a motion that may be amended is the best way to deal with all of the issues at once.
So if I
Thank
may
you.
ask a question of staff, so Kara, the 4 items as I wrote them down is the back patio with regards to the arches and the railings.
Correct.
Then the doors and windows behind that, accessing that particular patio. The side stair, which is now closed off versus
Extended.
extended. And then the front door. Those are the 4 items that we
Yes.
spent most of the time talking about.
Yes.
And as far as discussion is concerned, because the board can discuss anything we want, many of us have discussed what we think about those particular pieces. I don't know if the chair would like to hear more discussion, or if you want to go straight into a motion, which I think might still be premature, but that's my opinion.
Sorry to interrupt. Oh, sorry.
Chair? You wanna-
Please.
Oh, if there's another opportunity to speak more about the back patio before there's a vote, I would, appreciate that opportunity.
Yeah, would you like to discuss that more,
Okay.
about what you're saying?
So some of the feedback was that it looks potentially too busy. So from my point of view, one of the suggested solutions is to make a solid, I guess, balcony on top. That would be great, in my opinion. I think, not having the compound arch, but being open to mimicking the full arches that are similar to the ones in the front of the house could be very nice, because so we're making every effort to preserve the original elements, and sure, this is a new area, but we're also making every effort to preserve the inside of the house. So all the old tiles, the wood, anything that's salvageable, we're doing our best there. And we're going to great lengths to make it happen. So it would, as you walk through the house, to go through the great room, through the dining room, to walk into the terrace area and be met with basically just almost like these windows, just square, seemingly modern, might feel underwhelming, in my opinion. And I don't really know who's going to be observing this. It's the back of the house, right? It's the front of the house we're making original. Whatever can be original will be original. But the back of the house it's sitting on an acre of land. I don't know who's going to see it unless they have binoculars from, the Biltmore Hotel. And the Biltmore Hotel is something where many people experience on a daily, monthly, annual basis. And there they have some rooms that are beautiful, original, and recently they've made changes in some areas of the hotel. I don't know if you've been there recently, but I mean, that's directly across the street. That's going to have much higher viewership compared to a backyard. And that contrast of old, original, and in the next room is strikingly modern. I don't know how else to say it. That's it makes me wish they had this kind of review. This, or at least
It makes us wish that too.
had to go through a similar process.
Well, they did in the 1980s. I had the first party there, so as for when I was with president of the Dade Heritage Trust, and they did. I mean, it was really a big deal. What you're doing is really great, and I think all of us at this table not only admire what you're doing and respect it
Can you speak into the
tremendously.
mic, please?
Mr. Maxwell, I'm sorry, you need to be a little closer.
We need new mics. We need new microphones. But anyway, just summarizing it up, I believe, at least in my own heart, that all the recommendations that we're discussing here today, we're doing as a community to help one of our community members, so that we create and maintain the wonderful community that has brought us here. So I just want you to know that that's the spirit. And, you know, and I know the board members appreciate what you're doing. So let's see what we can do here on these motions to get our compromise going and get Vinnie back to work.
Thank you.
Do we have any, okay, so we've got the four basic issues here in a motion. And Mr. Garcia Pons is pondering the motion.
Does anybody have comments on before I make a motion?
So
Mr.
just
Silva?
a quick comment, one last comment regarding that rear balcony. So I think that the current iteration, I think we all agree sort of it needs to change. I personally would be okay. My preference is to have the flat bottom and the transparent railing. And that would mean kind of reconfiguring the rear, because I think the two work together, right? There's 4 points of contention. 2 of them kind of work together, right? So if we have the flat arch and the transparent railing, then I would kind of take a look at the rear windows. I would be open to changing their configuration. If we go to a solid railing, yeah, if we go to a solid railing with the full arches, I could get behind that because it's simplifying the thing, and I think the proportions would work. But if we do that, I would stay with the original openings in the back because then they're not lining up with anything, and I would ask that triple opening be kept a triple opening all the way down. That's
So to clarify, rather than a quad opening with 4 doors, you would say 3 openings? Okay. All right. Okay.
So I was just going to say,
Board, where are we here?
if a suggestion goes in the direction of study the patio, I mean, just as a rectangular or straight top opening doesn't have to be modern, you know. There's all kinds of examples where you have columns, and especially if you go with a three-part configuration, I mean, you can look at very great sources for that.
Would you like to make a motion, Ms. Alvarez?
I don't know if we need to talk about some of the other items first.
Board? Anything else over here?
Do you want to talk some?
We have the think music on right now.
I think Ms. Alvarez had a comment on some of the other items before we make a motion. I don't know if that's correct.
I didn't hear.
So I didn't understand. So what's happening in the garage is that you're just creating almost like an extension that didn't exist before in the prior submittal? Was that?
It's basically where the stairs were. If just put like cinder blocks on top and level it flat, I guess. That's so it's still kind of within the build footprint. But as it was.
Treating this,
Okay.
but it's just not,
And
not
it's,
well,
it's
it's
creating,
clouded.
where the stairs were, it's creating a storage room at the first level,
Right,
and then an extension of the terrace at the second level.
okay. No, it just wasn't clouded, so I want to make sure I was understanding.
So in sheet 5.3 on the top,
Yeah.
it would just be the dash line would be the edge of the wall versus the extension.
While they're pondering that, can I ask a question? Are you going to keep the little side yard with all the pools and everything in it? Are you restoring those, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're referring to the fountain pond with the,
Yeah, over there on the west side.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a real folly.
we may have to fill in the bottom a little bit to make sure it's at 18 inches.
It's a little deep.
Only if you get inside.
You ready?
Well, why don't we, I mean, I could make a motion. I'd be happy to make a motion, and then we can talk about it or vote.
I will make a motion for
Make a motion.
We can,
Okay, motion?
Yes, Alex, thank you.
So
We have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the special certificate of appropriateness as described in the agenda, with including staff conditions modified as follows. So staff condition number 3, which is to work with staff to revisit the details of the terrace addition and study a flat bottom and aligning, the condition 3 is to study a flat bottom and removing the arches. Alternatively, studying full arches and a solid top. Okay, so kind of 2 options, and I would leave that to your discretion.
Ms. Spain had mentioned the columns in between.
Yes, eliminating the columns in between, or not eliminating, but simplifying them, not doing the spiral columns, right? So that's condition number 3. Condition number 4, I would ask that they work with staff, and depending on which solution is ended up with on condition number 3, I'll just leave it at work with staff. I think you've heard our comments, and you, unless you want further guidance on that.
I do want further guidance, because you all were kind of across the board on
So,
how
okay,
you
so
felt
since I'm
about that.
making the motion, I would say that if we choose the option with the solid railing, that we keep the existing openings down to the floor on the two, creating one single door and one triple kind of opening with a single door in the middle, or 2 side lights, however that is. If we go with the option to have the flat arch and the transparent balcony, to work with staff so that those openings would be adjusted and kind of aligned with or centered on one of the openings below.
Okay.
All right, so that would be number 4. Number 5, that is talking about the stairs. I would agree with staff condition. I would leave that as written. Number 6. Which one was number 6? Did we talk about that one?
Provide recess.
There was a door at the
front
at the
door.
rear that was being
That's not the
infilled.
front door, though, right? That's not-
No.
No, that's not the
South.
front, that's not the front door, no.
South facade.
Okay, so I would agree with staff condition on 6 and 7. And number 8, which was the other one in contention, I would modify that to say, eliminate the recess, right, that we're doing for that double arch, and study with staff to have a single door with a full arched opening, slightly lowered to get a better proportion on that.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. We have a second by Ms. Spain. Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to reiterate it if needed. I just wanted to note it's also for the design proposal, not just the issuance of the special certificate of appropriateness.
Thank you.
So question for staff, the punting the loggia back to you, giving those 2 alternatives. I think they're both really viable alternatives, but we haven't seen them, and it's hard to sort of talk about. Is that something that you think you have enough direction on? Because it would not be probably in their best interest to have them come back to this board? Or do you think you need further direction from us?
I've seen both options. I'm sorry, I've seen the full arched option in the rear and I've seen the flat. And my personal opinion is that we can work with them. But I would tell you, I think that the flat top is more appropriate to both tie into Nelson's addition, which has a really nice composition to the side, and also the French doors that are currently leading to the dining room are flat top French doors, so it's a succession of space. They're kind of the same opening. That would be my preference, and I think that second space terrace will be more usable and a better feel if it's railings and not solid. That's my opinion. But
So I think that's Mr. Silva's option
Yeah.
AB. It's the
yeah,
B
so
version
I'm-
of it.
I mean, I'm happy to look at both, but that's
But I think it's
that's my
more,
preference.
if we punt it back to you with that information,
Yeah.
you guys can work with it, because I have now a potential friendly amendment. Well, it's for discussion, right? It was a
Yeah,
motion
It's
for
a,
discussion.
it's a discussion right here.
So I think both solutions could be worked. I think they could be beautifully designed. I think I'm leaning towards the flat versus the arch, although I think the arch could be very beautifully designed. But one of the things I'll add as potentially a third alternative to this, which is the flat version, is if the doors remain the same, but perhaps there's a rectangular transom above the doors, so you can get the additional height of the opening, and that might actually give you a little bit more to work with on that elevation, so it's not the composite arch or another arch, it is just more window on the top, and I think that would work with the doors and the openings and the height without introducing the arch pieces, so I don't know if you would accept that as a potential third option, which is some sort of a transom above the doors. And the reason I brought it up is because I have a version of that in my home that works very well. One has transom and one doesn't, and it's beautiful.
Actually, I had that in my home too.
It's your motion.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little, I mean, I would accept it. I think it's a good idea, but we're putting three options on Kara's plate, right? I think,
Don't do that.
No,
I think we,
We'll just pick one
Do you
then.
want to
My
pull the
preference would be
arch?
if you guys pick one.
No, leave the
Pick-
two.
I know you don't want to.
I
You
mean,
can do it.
that's,
What's the total height of the opening to the top of the transom on the arched version?
On the full arch, 12 feet.
Well, that's.
If we
because
go
it's
with
the full
8-foot
arch.
doors.
The composite arch is at 18 inches or so.
Right, but that's
With-
the option A that Mr. Silva is giving, is with the full arch? So you are okay with a 12-foot opening?
No, I think the transom could be any height, right? It could be 18 inches, it could be the appropriate transom height.
Square
Rectilinear.
or arched?
Rectilinear.
Oh, I'm talking about the full arch version.
Yeah, so he said the full arch, which is
Right.
the full arch.
So
It's
to the
whatever
top of
width
the
is
full
up.
arch, you're 12 feet.
With 8-foot doors, if we drop to 7-foot doors, then becomes 10 and a half. So it's a product of the door height in order to get to the full height.
and that arch works with only the solid railing, right? That's,
Correct, in my opinion,
yeah, yeah,
because of the railing.
right.
So, Mr. Silva, did you accept that amendment?
I accept it. I accept it. If Kara feels like she can kind of work with that, or,
I think we know what the property owner is proposing. So you're giving him a semi-version of that, so he's gonna push for that A version. And then we're gonna get stuck with having to make a decision, even though they want A-ish, you are saying A, B, or C with staff to review. And then staff is saying that B is probably the most appropriate in the condition of the proposal that we have in front of us today.
so then I guess let's, how can we revisit the motion, right? Can
It's
we?
your motion, you have both options, you could take one out.
Yeah, you-
So,
you
so
can
let's,
advise.
let's take out then I would take out the full arch version because that kind of, right? I feel like it's the flat one.
So
is
you're
appropriate.
withdrawing and then restating your motion with the condition number 3 be to study the flat bottom
The flat
with
bottom, but on the
removed
flat bottom, I would be
arches.
open to a transom to give a little more height there.
And a possible transom. That's for number 3. And then for condition number 4, previously you had said
So yeah, I would like to.
if it was flat, for the architect to work on, flat with a transparent top, to work with staff on aligning and centering.
No, that's the opposite case.
It would be flat with the railing,
Flat with a railing,
and then
and then the openings would be as per existing openings.
Flat with railing with openings to be as existing. So just to reiterate, to approve the design approval and the issuance of a SCOA with condition number 1 to remain, condition number 2 to remain, condition number 3 to study a flat bottom with removing the arches and possible transoms, and then condition number 4, that the triple window assembly at the second floor, if it's flat with a railing,
Which it will be now. Yeah, it is.
To-
Yeah, so keep condition number 4.
keep condition number 4. And then condition number 5, to leave the elimination of the addition of the northwest corner of the garage. Keep number 6, provide recess at infill of door of south facade. Keep number 7, provide details on the carport railing extension. And then number 8, as modified, to eliminate the recess and study a single door with full arch, slightly lower height.
Right. Just to be clear, item number 4 allows the door to be placed in that triple opening.
But do you also allowing it to be shifted this way, or just bring it down?
Just bring it down. That's mine.
Ms. Spain, do you want to second that modified motion?
Okay.
Thank you.
I know there's a vote like coming, but
you have
I
to
actually,
you
I'm
have
sorry.
to let him speak. You have to let him speak.
Please, go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting. I actually warmly welcome the solid railing on top. If that's
Yeah, I
one of the
mean,
options.
Understood. I just think it's going to be better for the design in general to be the flat arch. I think if you're, by allowing that transom option, I think
Not he's talking about the railing above. Not,
the railing above, right, but his point was also on the bottom, right? Like, because that works together, right? The arches and the solid railing on the top. I think by allowing staff to look at a transom at the bottom, you're going to get some more height. Because I know you were concerned about the view out, so that's going to kind of help that situation as well.
So if everyone's proposing having I guess square or rectangular doors, I'm saying, what if that also had a solid railing on top?
I think
He's
we're gonna
describing a
stay with
solid
it.
parapet.
Yeah, I think the transparency as design works really well. And I think the flat bottom works with that as well. So I'm gonna leave my motion. I'm gonna let it stand and we'll take a vote.
Okay, I'm gonna offer a friendly amendment.
Sure.
Going back to the homeowner,
Who was it?
I would like to offer the amendment that if the staff and the homeowner can work out the back, the same design principles, but with arches, and a solid balcony, so that they would have 2 options and 2 ways to look at things, all other criteria offered being the same.
What did you just say? Are you talking
So
about the arch?
I understand that it's bringing back a second option for consideration, essentially for conditions 3 and 4, which is to work with arches and a solid, I'm going to say this wrong, second balcony.
Well,
second
can't
level.
we, just procedurally, I'm sorry, can't we?
You do not have to accept that amendment.
Understood, but I would like to hear the board's opinion on
We can just
that
vote
arch
on it.
thing. Can't we do that as?
Of course, we
vote on
can,
that as
if
a-
you reject the amendment, we can, the chair can call for a vote on the motion that's pending, and if it fails, we can rehear another motion.
So let's do that then,
Right.
because that's, I think, a fair way of hearing everybody's opinion on the round arches, right?
Yeah.
May I,
No,
yeah, may I offer something that may be heresy? We've talked about different iterations here. And we're putting staff in a very difficult position because they're supposed to read our minds, come back, and the applicant will come back with, say, 2, 3 different studies of the issue. And it's not really fair to staff. if we gave clearer directions, it might be. So I don't like to kick the can down the highway, but I think it might be fairer to the applicant and to this board, and more importantly, staff, if we, at the next meeting, had 2 or 3 different studies incorporating the feedback that we've given tonight, and then vote them up or down. And Alex, after you've done a magnificent motion, I don't want to undercut it, but I'm sensing that there's a lot of ambiguity here.
Well, I don't think there's ambiguity in the motion right now as it stands, but there's maybe ambiguity in the board. So I'd be fine doing a deferral. I don't know if the applicant wants a deferral. I guess he doesn't have an option, right? Like, we either tell him,
We have a vote on the table, we have a motion on
Yeah.
the table.
So we do have a pending motion and second, which should be voted on. If the mover wants to withdraw that motion, he may, but we do have a motion and a second, which should be voted on.
So I'll withdraw so we can have a discussion
Oh,
on
no.
deferral. No, like,
Can I make that same motion?
Yes. So
I do have a friendly amendment.
So just
Friendly amendment.
going back here, especially if there's agreement, of course, you could defer. I do think, to be clear, I think you have seen some of those proposals already that you're discussing, Ms. Rolando.
But we have
You have not, yes. So if you withdraw your motion, any other motion can be made, but I don't know if I heard a full withdrawal. I will
right, so
defer
let's-
to you on that if I heard
Let's
a.
vote on the motion and see,
Yes.
as it stands, without Mr. Maxwell's
Amendment.
And Caesar, you've got to.
I would like to make another friendly amendment before we make the vote, and it has to do with the way that you've done it. The balcony railing,
Yes.
by requiring it that it be open edge to edge, I think does not give the architect an opportunity to perhaps put an end cap on it or put some columns. So I think
That was not
it
my
should
intent,
be
so-
mostly open and
Yes.
then have the architect work with the alignment of the openings on the second floor. So it's not fully closed or fully open, but some combination, to work with staff to do that. They would like to do
Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Silva?
That's acceptable.
Ms. Spain? So again, just before we call for the vote, Mr. Chair, again, just for the record, approving design proposal on SCOA, condition 1, remain condition 2, remain condition 3, study the flat bottom to remove the arch and possible transom. Number 4, as modified by the friendly amendment, to keep the railing not fully open or fully closed, but to work with staff on that. I think that's an accurate description of that condition. Number 5, to remain, 6 and 7 to remain, and 8 to modify to eliminate the recess surrounding the door and to study a single door with full arch and a slightly lower height. And then that's the motion and second. So, Mr. Chair, when you're ready to call the roll, we're ready.
I'm not ready to call the roll yet. Nelson, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yes, as I was enjoying watching you all struggle like I have for a few months, you could see some of
Nelson,
my
we've
pain.
seen you for 2 years
But-
now.
In discussing with Nikki, he's, to alleviate some of the back and forth with the arch, he's okay with a flat top. So that, I believe that's what the motion is, the flat top on the openings. And then I think we're fine with the option of either solid or continuous railing at the top and finalizing that with the owners, with staff. So a flat opening, no arch.
Everything else that we've discussed, okay? You guys good with that? Are we good?
I think he's having second thoughts.
Yeah.
Please speak up.
So not fully understanding what's, there's been a lot of back and forth here, so the current proposal is just,
Opening.
With a potential transom.
Potential transom.
So you can get more height.
And some flexibility on the railing, too.
yeah, I guess it's hard to visualize.
I would note that should it not come to agreement with staff, you could always return for a modification again to this board.
If there is going to be a transom, does it matter if it's round or sort of rectangular? I mean, just
I
go
think
back to.
we're saying flat.
It's a rectilinear transom.
You can bring, we can have a vote, you can come back, you can go to staff, you can bring a revised design and come back, if that's what you want to do. In other words, if you're not happy, you can come back with it. And then, we'll have to go through the process again. So I've been trying to work here to make sure that we didn't do that, but, because I know you've been here several times.
Yeah, and there's also the construction timeline as well, which is, this is one
Well,
of
the good thing is that Vinnie moves pretty slow.
well,
Just to confirm then, so you're not in agreement with the square?
So, I mean, clearly my ideal solution is to have a solid, flat, parapet or balcony, I'm not sure what the technical term is, and some arch. So this seems like it is possible to have neither of those elements in the solution, right?
That's my understanding of the current
staff.
motion. It would not have a fully solid top and/or arched entryways. That's my understanding of the motion.
Fully solid could mean anything that's not fully solid, and I'm sure Nelson can figure out how to do that. Doesn't have to be a complete parapet, it could be an incomplete parapet.
I mean, it could even be like the decorative concrete, with that was used before.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Motion on the table in a second? Yes. Do we want to have a vote?
And sorry, just to clarify, this is all with, working with staff to produce these things?
This is working with staff to
And if
produce
staff
this.
is not happy with it, then it comes back to us. Right? So there's always the,
don't have a problem.
there's always the coming back to us part. If you cannot come to an agreement, regardless of what we say today, they can always come back with, this is what we really want, having drawings to support it.
Correct, so anything that comes before us that we cannot get to per the conditions you've listed today, if staff is not okay with it, it can come back to you. And if the owner is not okay with it, they can come back also.
You guys good with that? Or did you hear it?
We were discussing a little bit.
Just to be clear that if there's never, if the two sides don't come to agreement on any of these sort of open questions, either party can always return to this board for further clarification or direction, excuse me.
Okay.
So we're good to go? All right.
It's up to you.
Let's have a vote. Would you please call the roll? We have a motion in a second.
Ms. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Durana,
Yes.
Ms. Dene,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons,
Yes.
Ms. Rolando,
Yes.
okay, Ms. Ebert,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Ms. Spain,
Yes.
and Mr. Maxwell.
Yes, we are unanimous, and we want to thank you all very much for your patience, your kindness, and your dedication to the historic preservation of our community. Best of luck to you. Thank you very much.
I'm willing to take any sketches you want to send me tomorrow.
Envy you that job.
It's a quasi judicial hearing.
Sketch I do.
Nelson, I think you're going to be Mr. Silva has said that he has really good coffee at his office, and that you can come over there anytime, and he'll be happy to help you draw this out. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to a wonderful party at your house one day, and we'd love to all see it when it's finished.
Thank you for hosting our Christmas party.
Okay, folks, we're going to move on to the very last parts,
Oh, there's more?
which
I thought we were
are,
done. No?
like me, old business. Do we have any?
Can we take a 15-minute
There's,
break?
the only old business that, just to come up to give you an update on was the North Ponce Historic Property Survey.
Yeah.
So the commission, not the last commission meeting, but the last meeting in February, they made a motion to pass the funding for the North Ponce District, but also to include the Flagler section. So it's been, the scope of work has been expanded. We've gotten the new proposal from the same company. So we'll be working with Pluserbia, and we're just getting the agreement finalized.
Congratulations.
And then the other, oh, go ahead, actually, now that I'm just going off my next update. So just, it's not new, old business, but just, discussion item would just be that you all received maybe a spam-looking email regarding updating your application or submitting a new application for your board application. This is just because the system that we have has an automated service that will remind you that in May, all of the terms are up. And so if you have received that email, please use it and use the link in it to upload your application. It shows that you have still have interest in serving on the board. And if you are not what is it? So if you get appointed, you'll continue
No.
to
So
yeah, I'm like,
everyone will
I get
continue
lost
to
this
serve until reappointed or replaced,
correct.
depending on who your appointing member is.
That
So
is how it works.
And what was that email, where was that email from?
So it's from it's like the Legistar. I'll find you all a copy of it.
Probably
Mr.
deleted
had forwarded me one so that you could find it. It may have actually gone to your spam because it wasn't a @coralgables.com email. So you may have ignored it, but I will try to find you a copy of one so that you can look at it. And if not, I'm sure the city clerk has a link that can send you back to that application process.
Would you please make sure that Marlon gets an invitation to the board
Yes, of
members
course.
event? Okay.
Yes.
And that Mr. Banos has
Judy
one
was,
too, as well. Thank you. Is there any other old business?
What? No?
I mean,
Not
we're all,
from me.
we've all gotten very old here with this, okay.
I do have a new item.
I have some new business.
New items? I'm sorry?
I have some new business.
Well, thank you. You're your new business.
Well, I am new business, but after Sally Jude passed away in December of 2022, with the Jude children, I went to a commission meeting and started a process of getting a park named for Sally and Jim Jude, and that is going to happen. As some of you know, she lived for almost 50 years in a very historic house down on Edgewater called Java Head, and around the corner from there is a City of Coral Gables Park. It's Sunrise Harbor Park, and on May the 10th, Saturday, May the 10th at 10 a.m., you'll get an invitation. The park's going to be renamed the
that's so
James and
nice.
Sally Jude
That's
Park.
so nice.
Well, and a lot of people, one day the fire chief was there with me, and I reminded him that Dr. Jude invented CPR.
He did.
A lot of people just are unaware of that, and he, in front of the commission, said, of all the medical procedures that have happened in the last 50 years, CPR is by far the most important because we can all perform it. We can all save lives. So the Jude children are coming to town. There'll be 6 Jude children there. So,
And it's May 10th at 10?
Oh, they're missing.
Saturday, May 10th at 10 a.m. And this park is really right where Douglas Road starts. So,
speaking of events, I believe Ms. Pernas has another event to share.
We are doing the unveiling of a historic marker for the McFarland Historic District on the corner of Grand Avenue and US 1, so I'll forward you all that invitation for Tuesday, I believe at 10:30. Very
this coming
soon.
Tuesday.
I'll send it to you now.
Thank you.
This Tuesday.
And Tuesday at 10:30?
Correct.
Not here. But, okay, great. Is there any other new business?
Well, I have one more too. So the Merrick House this weekend on Saturday is hosting a vintage market with purveyors and vendors of vintage goods. It's most of the day on Saturday, I think from 10 to 5. So come out and enjoy.
Well, thank you. Mr. Garcia-Ponce.
So Ms. Ebert, is there an event in April at City Hall with regards to recycling program?
Oh, the recycling, oh, yeah. Saturday, April 26th.
Okay. We have one other thing at the end of the month. We will finally be meeting with FP&L to discuss the streetlights. Ms. Paranis, would you kindly send me the photograph of the house on Santa Maria, the one with the street light? Because I would really like, and with the date on it, please?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. I really appreciate it. Are there any city commission items that we need?
One thing, what ended up happening on the FP&L lights?
That's the meeting that's taking place at the end of the month.
Oh,
Yeah, it's at the end of March. It's moved around so much. I want to say it's the 30th.
31st.
31st, okay.
Okay,
In the afternoon.
thank you.
All right, are there any other discussion items for anyone? Are there any, I'd like to welcome Marlon. Marlon is not only a former mayoral candidate, she has run for all kinds of.
No, not
Commissioner,
mayor.
excuse me, I'm sorry. She should be mayor. But I think most of you know that Marlon is the president of the theater, okay, the Gables Art Cinema. And so you will always see her over there. And I would encourage all of you to, get to know her better. She's not only a wonderful member of our community, but she's a great resource. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, I'd like a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. Thank you. Thank you all for a very,
Caesar, come here.
very difficult issue.
Recording stopped.